right, brothers and sisters, I'm Elder Ricard Shar of the Gathering of Christ Church, along with Elder Lawyer for our weekly Sabbath lesson. I hope you all are doing well. Thanks for your presence. The water for your presence. All praises be to the Most High, Ahaya Bahashim Yeshaya Wa Rewak. Yes, we're in for a lesson breaking down, as you can see in the title, wars and rumors of wars. Okay? While the world was getting distracted with a cold, a lot of prophecies were unfolding. Okay? And I'm going to go into some of these today to let you know that outright they're letting the whole earth understand that there will be a war. But in order for this war to culminate into what the Bible says it will be.
Skynet. A computer program designed to automate missile defense. It was supposed to protect us, but that's not what happened.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole.
There'll be little proxy or mini wars that can distract many people. Okay? It's called, in the Bible tell you, realm against realm. So they'll be showing you something on this level during their conflicts, realm against realm, in which you don't realize all of these are really leading to the ultimate prophecy, the last war. So today, through the Spirit of the Most High, I hope this lesson gives you some insight on what to look into. When the news articles are out there telling you on one level what this conflict is, or the reason for it, or what that conflict is, or for the reason for it. You can look through it and actually understand the times according to the Bible concerning prophecy. And these wars are really like what? These wars are signs of crisis coming. Wars are fought on many levels, and I'm going to go into it. Okay? Psychological, biological, the weather.
Satellites. We can control our weather.
Worst hailstorm in history. You can see the damage and devastation of buildings and vehicles wrecked by the storm.
Okay? All of these are tools of war that's used to what? Keep people at bay, to control populations. And when all fails, bloodshed, mayhem, all of that is leading to what? Freeing the children of Israel. The nations are warring to keep the prophecies concerning their future at bay. That's right. Wars and rumors of wars is our lesson today. You see what's going on in the Ukraine and what they're claiming, but we're going to give you a better insight to what's going on there, according to God's word. Now, before we go in, Elder Lawyer, what will be the title for the Academy tomorrow?
Yes, sir. The Seed of Promise.
The Seed of Promise is our lesson tomorrow. Okay, the Seed of Promise. The promised seed according to God. There's a certain bloodline in this earth since the beginning that has always been under attack. Okay, a certain genetic code. It so happens to be our genetic code. That's between the crosshairs. It's prophetic that the children of Israel would go through Jacob's trouble. Okay, so we're going to go into that. The promised seed, to show you beyond any shadow of a doubt that the Most High has always had a chosen people according to bloodline, not just under a belief system. If you believe in Christ, that you are God's seed or you are the children of God. Let me make it clear. All people on earth are children of God. Okay? That's not the conversation. The conversation is, who did he choose out of all people? That's the conversation. So we're going to make that clear that the Most High has never changed his mind concerning us, the children of Israel. Okay? He have never changed who his chosen people were or are today. So genetically, we are what? We are the children of promise, heir to a kingdom. Heir to a kingdom. So I'm going to be going into that and show you how the Christian church, as you know what they do, the modern day Roman liars, they came with a new philosophy on God's people, so that now, instead of us looking for a particular people in the earth to preserve for the promise, instead of doing that, they have came out with these blanket terms like God's people or the chosen people, or when it says Israel in the Bible, that's talking about the church. They're liars, okay? Because that's so ambiguous. What you mean the church? There's all types of churches out here. There's Vietnamese churches, there's Seventh-day Adventists, that's confusing. Christ is coming back for his church. See, and they're putting that out there because the Zionists and the powers that be control the churches. So we're not dealing with that. We're going to show you that the Most High has a promised seed. And the wars that we see going on in the earth is to do what? To suppress God's people, knowing that Christ is coming back for us, or to eradicate us altogether. Okay? Knowing the future of the 10 horns. Rome. So we're going to be going into that tomorrow. We're going to show brothers and sisters of the lawyer exactly how civilization began right after the flood. How the Nephilim and others were able to go from that side of the flood to this side of the flood and began to set up their empires on this side, controlling and destroying the children of Noah. But the Most High would have out of all those people, just like he has today, a remnant, a chosen. He would choose a man by the name of Abraham. And I'm going to go into that tomorrow. The promised seed from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob to the 12 tribes of Israel to Christ coming in the earth.
Because I am.
To deliver that promise according to the gospel. To the epistles which confirms Christ's ministry. All the way up till what? Up until our present time. The promised seed from the time of the flood to our present time, to prove that beyond any shadow of a doubt, we are the children of promise. Tomorrow in the Hebrew and Bible Academy. And what I'm going to do, if the Most High permit, I'm going to see if I can put Zoom on here so that when I set up tomorrow, we can bring at least 2 people from the Academy. Click the link that we'll put in the comment section and give us your testimony or ask a question based on the lesson that was provided. A new feature in our Hebrew and Bible Academy. So we're going to finish up by 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to just deal with the scriptures as it is written and break it on out so that we don't, and keep the news within 30 to 45 minutes so that now I can, you and I can begin to start seeing our brothers and sisters in remote areas on the other side who has always supported this academy. You don't want to miss that, all right? The Hebrew and Bible Academy, okay? You don't want to miss it. Tomorrow, it's week 3 of the academy. Week 3. Week 3, folks, which means if you enroll, and we have someone on standby operating right now for the enrollments. If you enroll, we'll make sure that not only will you receive the information to get in tomorrow, the links, the PDFs, everything. I mean, a lot of work have went behind this as far as the studies and all that we send you personally. You'll also receive the prior 2 weeks missed, including the news, all of that. And a lot of people out there are out of touch because CNN and these other news circulations has actually began to divert people. For a while, they've been diverting people from the real news that would have us understand how close we are to Christ is coming. Well, you'll get the 2 weeks as well as the news that you missed. You needed to catch up. Okay? You need that news to catch up with what's going on prophetically. And you'll get the lessons. The creation of the universe, as well as, that's right, tracing the serpent seed. Proving that the so-called gods or aliens are really, according to the Bible, the fallen angels who control politicians and judges in this earth and priests over religions, and they're still in control at our present time. That's week 2. And then we go into the promised seed. We went to the serpent seed last week, and now we're going into the promised seed. Finding our fathers. Finding our fathers. And this is, and guess what? And this is no harm or no shade on any other race of people. This has nothing to do with uplifting our people over everyone else. It has everything to do with what? Setting the record straight according to the gospel. To the Jew and the Israelite first. The Jews according to bloodline, not religion. And also the Gentiles. You don't want to miss that. So let me jump right in. HistoryTimes.org. HistoryTimes.org. I just typed that in your comment. Let's jump in to what's going on. Wars and rumors of wars. Like I've mentioned, wars are fought on many levels, folks. And I'm going to tell you the best war. Okay? The greatest war. When you can war without actually engaging. See, if we want to talk about wars and rumors of wars, we have to first identify the hunter. Right? He who calculates all of this. So when you see what's going on in the Ukraine and other areas and all that, folks, you have to realize that stuff isn't Biden. It isn't the president. Okay? The president just rubber stamps what the lobbyists bring to his desk. He who controls the finances control the politicians. Okay? Why do you think it costs so much money to campaign? You think these people paying billions and billions of dollars in an election to chance this guy changing his mind and doing something outside of their prior agreements that got him in office? No, you don't understand how politics works. You don't understand how it works. So it's not about Biden. It's not about Obama. It's not about any politician that you may be looking at. You have to look at the grand picture.
When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on. that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young noble leaders of the world in great form.
We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic. We have a great opportunity at this moment, like we had after World War II, to create this global reset, to have in some way a new beginning in our global cooperation, in globalization, in managing our global affairs. First, we deeply believe in the power of the collaborative efforts of all stakeholders of global societies. If we want to address the global challenges, governments have a leading role. Governments have a leading role. Governments have a leading role.
Aujourd'hui, au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
On appelle quelqu'un, on n'a même plus le réflexe de devoir prendre un appareil, ça se fait naturellement. La technique continue le corps.
Oui, vous parlez et vous dites, je veux maintenant être connecté avec n'importe qui. Et d'abord, vous avez les robots personnalisés. Et j'ai vu que M. Zuckerberg a prédit qu'à la fin de l'année, il va avoir son robot, son butler personnalisé qui est à sa disposition.
Donc, comme dans Downton Abbey, on aura son butler personnel, son serviteur, son esclave.
Oui, mais il y a une différence. C'est un serviteur qui, avec l'intelligence artificielle, apprend. Et qui n'est pas seulement votre assistant pour des travaux manuels, qui peut vraiment être un partenaire intellectuel de vous.
Alexa, when will World War III start?
World War III starts on November 23, 2023 at 6:05 p.m., when Russia launches an attack against Germany.
Okay? There's controllers over all governments. And when you look at what's going on in the Ukraine, Russia, and all that, we're going to show you what's happening on the, the regular level that most people can understand. But we're going to show you the big picture according to Christ. Okay? These are little proxy wars. But in order to do so, we must identify the tool Satan will use against the children of Israel. Elder Lawyer, let's go to Genesis 25 real quick, and then we're going to go directly to Christ.
Genesis 25, verse number 21.
Yeah.
And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because his wife was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived.
Come on.
And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus?
Come on.
And she went to inquire of the Lord.
And she went to inquire of the Most High. And eventually, the Most High said it was twins in her womb. Let's read it.
Verse 23. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb,
2 races of people are in thine womb.
and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
Now, like I showed last week, this wasn't speaking of 2 separate bloodlines that would come directly from Rebekah's womb. Okay? Having the same father and mother. This was prophetic. That one of these children would eventually go off and do what? Produce with the Nephilim bloodline that was in the land of Canaan. Before the Israelites came in. Okay? When we marched around Jericho and the Most High destroyed that wall, the Nephilim, the fallen ones, ran into Mount Seir. So eventually, Esau would link in to make a what? Stronger bloodline to fight against us, the children of Jacob. Now go back to last week's Sabbath if you want to see that. Or if you want to see the more detail, we're going into Who's Edom in a couple of weeks anyway in the academy. So read on.
24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb.
There were twins in her womb. Read.
And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau.
And the first came out red. There's no such thing as white people. There's no such people as white people. My Mitri's white. Okay. Red all over. Read.
Like an hairy garment.
Like a hairy garment. Read.
And they called his name Esau.
And they called his name Esau. Esau. Now the Bible describes Esau as what? The eagle. Or let's get it where it says that Esau was that cunning hunter. Let's get that.
Yes, sir. Verse number 27.
Go back to where you were, red.
Yes, sir. Verse 25. The first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau.
And they called his name what?
Esau.
And they called his name Esau. 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 Now I'm going to give y'all just some insight, confirming what's being broken down here. Okay? Let's go here to the lesson here. And as you can see, just use it as an example. This guy right here, don't know him, just a random guy with a mask. His mask is white. His mask is white, okay? This is how you describe it in the Bible. This is what Isaac and his mother was beholding. A different hue of people. Now, there's another thing out there where people, as you can see, he's red. A variation of red, not white. That's not racist, that's reality. That's color. That's exactly what that is. Okay? The trick was convincing us that they were white. When obviously we're looking at what? A variation of a red color, pink. That was the deception. Okay? Everyone else looked like us, brown skin. Now, there's some people out there who say, well, Esau have to be black because he had children with dark Canaanites. You don't know the research. You don't understand the Bible. There were a cursed people amongst the Canaanites who was leprous, where their genetics were turned white or like Caucasian. Like you read of Gehazi in the Bible, where not only was Gehazi cursed, but his children were cursed with the same mark. So when Esau, and I'm going to go into this when it's who's Esau, because I really want to stay on wars and rumors of wars today. When Esau went into the land of Mount Seir, he connected with those who looked like him, where the curse of leprosy was on these particular Canaanites. So they switched it up. In modern day theology, they'll tell you that the Canaanites or all the Hamites were black, and that's the curse of Ham. When really, it's on the flip side. The mark of the hunter who would be hunting the earth and destroying the people would be identified as red, not black people. So they flipped the script. See? Now they didn't flip the Bible. The Bible is clear that the chosen people are people of color, like us. So they didn't change the Bible. It was a psychology they used through Christian theology that made you look at black people or dark-skinned people as bad and white people are pure and innocent, according to their Webster's dictionary. But we have found Edom and realized, and those say, well, Esau connected with black Canaanites or black people in Mount Seir. These are unlearned people that are making these statements. Prove that. You can't prove that. That's an opinion. But I can prove when the children of Israel went into the land of Canaan that was turned to Israel, that the Most High told the priests how to rid that area of what? The curse of leprosy. The curse of leprosy that turns dark skin pink. Like you see black people sometimes, our people of color, they have spots, light spots on their face, and they turn whiter or more lighter with spots. That is the curse of leprosy that was in the land of Canaan. And these were the people that were cursed by the Almighty for their wickedness and evil. And they made it with Esau to do what? To create the race we see today as so-called Europeans. And this is why in the book of Revelation, it tell you that the beast rolled a what? That it was a scarlet, that the woman rolled a scarlet colored beast, a red beast. A red beast, okay? Now let's show you how Esau, his mentality to actually gain power in the world. What gift would he receive? Let's read that, Elder Lawyer. When he was what?
Yes, sir. Verse number 27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter.
He was a what?
A cunning hunter.
A cunning hunter. So you have to realize the greatest power of a hunter is not what? When you don't have to physically engage someone. Okay? You can hunt. You can use the all-seeing eye, the satellites, and find out where everyone is. You don't have to engage a person to destroy them. That's one of Esau's powers in the earth. That, being a cunning hunter,
boys is on us, and them boys ain't ready for this.
And you know what? Psychology. Psychology.
And not skip getting the shot.
Esau has the power to never show his hand.
Those pastors practiced what they've been preaching.
Why? Because he practiced a certain mannerism.
If we don't actually find a way
to a cordial interaction,
a vast majority of this
even
be vaccinated,
it's
going to be very difficult to have
He'll
the
do
economy
that
we had before. It's
while
gonna be very
he's
difficult to have
while
the
he's
spiritual life
injecting the
that we had
poison
before.
in
It's
you,
gonna be very
and
difficult to have
while
the
he's
communal life
actually
that we had.
laying you out
This
to
is our
destroying
way
your
out.
community, he'll
This is our way
smile
up. And by the way, for
in
the
a
record,
trusted
I'm not
manner
talking
to a
cheap
degree where
because I've
our
already
people
been
will think,
vaccinated.
well, hold up, they could never think to harm our people. No, psychology is one of their greatest gifts used in warfare. Okay? You cannot look at what they say or how they act. You must study what they do. They're cunning hunters. Strategic. Read.
And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field.
A man of the field, out in the woods, hunting, gaming. So a lot of this stuff is what, brothers and sisters? Is game to them.
Why would you want to kill yourself? Maybe I like the idea of choosing when I die instead of having somebody else choose for me. If someone offered you a good job, would you be interested? What kind of job are you talking about? We need someone to help us with our hunts out in the wilderness.
Are you sure about this one?
Oh, I'm sure.
Has he got courage?
Gentlemen, I would like you to meet our new hunting guide, Mason.
Here's a toast to the hunters and a prayer for the hunted. The hunt begins now.
Just let me get the door for you. Go.
We're not really gonna hunt anymore, are we?
He's nothing. He's less than nothing.
Come on, Mason!
I won't take any part in this.
I want you!
If you make it to civilization, you live. If you don't, maybe God will have mercy. I think he's gone back to the cabin.
None of them has ever done that before.
Mr. Mason!
What's that smell?
Everybody out of the cabin!
I like my meat rare.
Try well done, bitch.
Jack Mason knows he's going to die someday.
Damn, I wish I'd never started smoking.
But today, he's not in the mood.
This is where it gets interesting.
Never underestimate
Come on, Mason!
a man who has nothing to lose. Rutger Hauer, Charles Dutton, Gary Busey, F. Murray Abraham, William McNamara, and Ice-T. Surviving the game.
I'm going to show y'all, folks, but Christ has identified not only the children of Israel and has awakened us. He has given us an insight to what Esau is doing in the earth when it comes to wars and rumors of wars. It's never what they're telling you. Matthew 24, Elder Lawyer.
St. Matthew chapter 24, verse 1. And Yeshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple.
Come on.
And Yeshua said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down.
There shall not be one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. Now, what was Christ talking about here, brothers and sisters? He was talking about our temple. The one place that connected our people with the heavens. Okay? Once a year, all of the greats within our people, all of our people would go to Jerusalem to bring our sacrifices and homage to our own God. We didn't go to Buddhist temples. We didn't go to Roman temples, like your Christian churches today. We didn't go to mosque and all that because we knew these were Babylonian satanic temples that could only produce spiritually for the people who are over that particular religion. Okay, so we didn't go to mosque. or Roman temples that was set up through government. That was colluding with the Roman government. The only place in which we can connect to our God at that time before Christ was the temple in Jerusalem. So Christ was letting us know this connection with the Almighty will soon be broken. And y'all going to be searching for my God. No longer will we once a year come together, or 3 times a year come together to this temple. And through that, it strengthened us, because they didn't just come there and it wasn't just routine. This was our political stance, our political place in which we can conversate amongst each other concerning our affairs as a people. It wasn't just us just reading the Torah. See, we would go here for social standings, conversations, what you would call annual meetings, so that we'll know what's going on with our people. Okay? And understand the political landscape. We had that in Jerusalem. So it wasn't just a religious temple. It was a place we can sit there, we can trade, we can conversate, we can talk about our past, our forefathers. The temple kept our people, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi at that time, intact. And Christ says, you see this? It's coming down. And like I showed you last week, the Wailing Wall that they've made a religious shrine for Jewish people as well as Muslims and Christians was a fort where what? Where the Romans were held up to destroy our people in Masada after the temple was destroyed. And that confirms what Christ was talking about. Fort Antonia is the Wailing Wall when you do the research. It's not a part of the ruin of Jerusalem. The ruins of Jerusalem is an entirely different location. So they claim they're at the Wailing Wall because they're crying about the temple being destroyed, when these are the people that are behind destroying the temple. Right? So Christ said, see these things? Not one stone will be upon another. Our temple will be destroyed. And he was putting it out there. That we're going to have to connect another way to our God. Socially, religiously, civilly as a people, we're not going to have one location to come together anymore. Got it? He says that this thing going to be destroyed. Read.
Verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?
Okay, what is the signs we can look for Christ? Now, these are the signs that everyone who believe or understand the word should be looking for. These are the signs. Do not go for the lies that the Christian theologists and the Muslim teachers and imams have been putting out there. They're liars. Okay? These are the signs. So when you hear about a rapture and all this other stuff they're talking, know that that's misdirection. When you hear about one antichrist is going to pop up out of the earth, know that that's deception, because none of that is within Christ's teachings or Christ's warning of Christ's signs, better word, given to the disciples. None of that. None of it. Read.
Verse 4, and Yeshua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
Many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And really, the only religion that's outright using Christ's name within the title, within the frame of their particular religion, is Christianity. They're going to use my name to deceive the earth, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Do not listen to any religion out there, is what Christ is telling you. They're going to deceive you. Why? Because the fall of the temple means what? The fall of the temple means glory and power to the people who destroyed it. So how can these people teach you about me when they're the ones who destroyed your coming together, your temple, your connection with God? You're going to listen to them? Then you have Islam talking about, well, Christ was a prophet. Christ was a Muslim. Liar. This is how they're using Christ's name for credibility. And that's how you know Islam is one of the bottom satanic religions, because they need our book to be credible. They need to start talking about our prophets because they don't have any. Okay? There's none. Don't try to hook arms with us and try to steal our knowledge and understanding and our forefathers and use another book only to do what? To claim that the book of our forefathers, which brings us together, is tampered with. That's another religion that uses Christ's name to try to co-sign. He was a prophet like Muhammad was a prophet. Liar. He was more than a prophet. Okay? It's primarily, and then you have Buddhists and all these others. How do they get credibility amongst our people? They start going into the tenets of Christ and saying those tenets can be taught within any religion. Christ is more so a concept. Evil, wicked deception. He's more than a concept. He's more than a prophet. He's king. And he's coming back. Right? He's more than a prophet. So the first thing, listen, Christ could have shown any signs he wanted to. The first thing he said was, do not listen to these liars who are going to use my name. Because you're not going to use my name without first doing what? Giving the gospel to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. You can't use Christ's name unless you do that first. Because that's the first thing Christ did. Hold on, get Matthew 5 and 10 and let's confirm that. Matthew 10 and 5.
Say Matthew 10 verse 5.
Yes.
But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
So how can you say you coming in Christ's name and you can't even identify his people? Liars. See, this is how you know the people Christ was warning us about. You can point out any people on the earth. You can even identify Europeans and say they the people. You know who the Ishmaelites are, Arabs. You know who all the other races, the Hamites who are in India and different parts of the Sudan, different parts of Ethiopia. Those are the Hamites. But yet you cannot identify the lost sheep of Israel? Liar. Because if you knew of Christ and can speak of him, surely you would know his people. Read it again, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Starting from verse 5. These 12 Yeshua sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not.
Come on.
But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
That's right. Christ didn't give a mission to the Gentiles until after his death and resurrection. So y'all backward. How can you just teach all the Gentiles and not identify Christ's people first? And I don't have no problem with teaching the Gentiles, but I'm not going to leave out the people Christ said he came for. So that's a sign when someone will tell you, well, it doesn't matter.
Church in Tempe, Arizona.
Even though Christ was an Israelite, it doesn't matter who his people are today, as long as we believe the lies that are taught through the Christian church.
This movement is something that you'll see a lot on YouTube, Facebook, different places, where they're constantly piping up with just the most ridiculous, foolish arguments. They really just prey on people's ignorance, and, you know, anybody who's following them, I'm sorry, but is not very smart. They just assume that people haven't read the Bible, so they cherry pick strange verses out of context. And their whole point is to try to prove that Jesus was black and that black people are the true Jews. And so
we're saved. Liars. Liars. We were trodden down by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So it's in their interest not to tell our people that we are the true bloodline of Israel. And Christ says, many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. They'll say they're Christ, but the people won't vet them. The people are not going to vet or question them. See? Well, why aren't you doing what Christ was doing if you're coming in his name? Get out of here. Okay, why aren't you following the law? When Christ says he came not to destroy the law. He came to fulfill the law of his Father. Liar. Deceiver. See? This is how you vet these people. Because they're just going to use Christ in name. And guess what? Christ said that was the first sign. Because they use his name to gain what? Credibility. Acceptance. Because there's no other name under heaven whereby man can be saved. And even they know that. They couldn't just push Muhammad alone and have people come under that. See? You can't do it. They need our knowledge, our book, and our forefathers to show you the power of our bloodline for credibility. Read on, Elder Lloyd. Let's go back to Matthew.
Yes, sir. Matthew 24 in verse number 5 or verse number 6.
Yeah.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars.
You shall hear of what?
Wars and rumors of wars.
Wars and rumors of wars.
See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass.
Listen to what he's saying.
See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
But the end is not yet. Now, what is Christ doing here? He's comforting us in this time with his words. He's comforting us in these times with his words. He told us this. See? He's comforting us. All these things, don't be troubled, is what he said. Don't panic. And if someone is panicking you through this, they're of the devil. Do not panic. Because what is he saying? The end is not yet. See? So we're going to hear of wars and rumors of wars. And what's going to happen, those who are not, what? Grounded in the word, grounded in Christ, is going to look at what's going on in the news.
Of Ukraine has heightened tensions surrounding
get triggered
Putin's nuclear arsenal.
And begin to panic and panic other people.
Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov
when
has
really,
warned if a third world war
were
to take place, it would be destructive and would involve nuclear weapons. The warning comes after Lavrov accused Ukraine of trying to acquire nuclear weapons. Vladimir Putin also placing what he calls Russia's nuclear deterrence forces on, quote, heightened alert. Ukraine was once the third largest nuclear power in the world after the collapse of the Soviet Union. It doesn't have any nuclear weapons today. It surrendered them to Russia in the 90s in exchange for security protections and a guarantee it would never invade the country.
Why? Because Christ confirmed that these wars and rumors of wars would come, and that he would do what? He would guide his elect through it. The first understanding of being able to guide through it, the first, I would say, gift of seeing what's going on is because you also can see the hunter. Wars and rumors of wars. The hunter is going to be working on every level to panic the people, so that now you're running out and now he can pick you off, because you're looking at more so what the hunter is doing and not what Christ said. So a lot of this stuff is out there to panic the people, to shake the tree, to make people afraid, so that people could expose themselves or eventually fall to one of the hunter's devices and die by doing so. Are you more afraid of the hunter? Let's weigh this. Do you believe Christ more so over the fear you have for the hunter? Huh? Before you answer that, just take it in and just think on that for a few days. Just think on it. Because I believe, I'm almost sure more people trust and are afraid of the hunter more than they believe in the Christ they claim to serve. Wars, rumors of wars, but the end is not yet. So there are going to be some people in the earth executing Satan's chaos. Wars on every level. Right now, for instance, wars on every level. Let's go here. While everyone was running around talking about a cold that automatically just disappeared out of nowhere because CNN and the news tell you it's okay now to actually go outside and act like normal people. There was some news that most out there didn't know actually was happening. Okay, this is SP Global. An article that came out early November, brothers and sisters. Iran talks that could sway global oil supply by 1.5 million to resume November 29th. November 29th. Now, this was going on while everyone was talking about the cold. No one knew that Iran was in talks. Well, Iran was in talks with what? Russia and other countries so that they can open up the trade that will allow what? The embargoes to come off of, a lot of sanctions to come off of Iran. Because Iran sanctions is doing what? It's harming other economies, including Russia. So the whole thing with the Ukraine and all that, folks, it's to get in the way. I'm going to show y'all something. It's to get in the way of the global body inviting Iran back in at a time where they claim Iran is now close to having nuclear capability. So they're telling you Russia is going to invade and this, that, and the other. Never listen to none of that. They're proxying. The only reason Iran or Russia will go into that area is to protect their interests within the Ukraine, knowing that the administration here, controlled by the powers here, is looking to cause disturbances that will stop the talks from Iran being able to trade. Okay? That's what's going on here. Wars and rumors of wars. So you're hearing about the Ukraine now because they are allowing you to demonize any other country that's in the way of their interest.
The single most important thing that we can do from the outset is keep the democracies united in our opposition and our effort to curtail the devastation that is occurring at the hands of a man who, I quite frankly, think is a war criminal. And I think it will meet the legal definition of that as well. But I want to thank everyone for, and I think it's been a surprise that how we've all stayed together across the board. The most severe punishing sanctions in the history of the world. Economic sanctions have been imposed, and there's more that will come.
Now, Russia has recently released evidence claiming the involvement of US President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden's investment fund in operating biolabs around the country. The claim, however, is in connection with an apparently legal operation business that had been running in the country for a long time now. Let's take a look at this report.
Chief of the Russian Radiation, Chemical and Biological Defense Forces, Igor Krylov, recently stated that an investment fund led by Hunter Biden, son of US President Joe Biden, was involved in financing biological laboratories in Ukraine.
Поступающие материалы позволяют проследить схему взаимодействия органов США с украинскими биообъектами. Обращает на себя внимание причастность к финансированию указанной деятельности структур, близких к нынешнему руководству США. В частности, инвестиционного фонда Росмонсенека, который руководит Хантер Байден. Фонд обладает значительными финансовыми ресурсами в объеме не менее 2,4 миллиарда долларов. При этом прослеживается тесная связь фонда с основными подрядчиками американского военного ведомства, включая Метабиота, которая наряду с Black & Veatch является основным поставщиком оборудования для биолабораторий Пентагона по всему миру.
The US reportedly tried untested drugs on Ukrainian soldiers. Since such activities are prohibited in the United States, they were allegedly carried out by the Pentagon abroad.
Масштабы программы впечатляют. Непосредственное участие в ее реализации, кроме военного ведомства, принимает Агентство США по международному развитию, Фонд Джорджа Сороса, Центр по контролю и профилактике заболеваний. Научное кураторство осуществляют ведущие исследовательские организации, включая Национальную лабораторию в Лос-Аламосе, которая разрабатывала ядерное оружие в рамках Манхэттенского проекта. Вся эта деятельность осуществляется под полным контролем Пентагона.
Ukraine maintains a network of biological labs dedicated to research into pathogens, and those labs have received funding and research support from the United States.
But really, it's going to culminate, folks. It's going to culminate into an all-out war eventually. But that's why Christ said, "Be not troubled, for the end is not yet." Okay?
Yeah. In time. We ain't playing at all. He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The Jews were lost due to laws, Jerusalem's ours. I got a truer cause. I can't quit it, I'm too involved. His hands up, cops still drew his arm. Don't do it, Sarge. Let off 50 shots, say you was scared, they won't give you a charge. Let NASA tell it, those ain't chariots, they shooting stars. NASA in Hebrew means deceiver. We don't believe you. I don't believe you walked on the moon or you flew to Mars. The firmament is permanent, it don't move at all. I can prove it all. Scriptures loaded, I shoot them off. No way you can dodge. Just ignore me, you cool as frost. When you stand before that white throne, you'll see who's in charge. Repent. You on the highway to hell and that Uber cost. I write these little raps and post them, but I got newer songs. Quiet now, chariots. Heathen can't stop it, not enough firepower. They want us to quiet down, we gon' cry loud. It's all about unity.
The end is not yet. There's other types of wars. Look at your screen. That's just one level of war. We're speaking of tanks, airliners, submarines. We're talking about when all talks has failed. Then it's all out war, bombs all over the place. But there's other types of wars. American history of weather warfare.
Bloomfield, Michigan, 1942. As World War II rages across several continents, acclaimed architect and eventual designer of the St. Louis Arch, Eero Saarinen, is secretly enlisted by the United States military to work for a new clandestine organization. Its name? The OSS, Office of Strategic Services, or as it is known today, the CIA.
The fact that Eero Saarinen was in the OSS designing weapon systems during World War II, and at a time when the OSS was looking into ways to weaponize weather, makes his whole connection to the design of the St. Louis Arch extremely interesting. Now, that isn't to say I believe it can control the weather, but it does open the door to the idea that it might have been one of the things Saarinen was out to achieve.
While at the OSS, Saarinen designed buildings and weapon systems, many of which were never completed or built. Is it possible he later used these secret plans to engineer the St. Louis Arch, creating something that can actually control or perhaps harness the weather?
Controlling the weather is the ultimate superweapon. It's even more powerful than the atomic bomb. So if Eero Saarinen was involved in analyzing and studying the possibility of weather modification, and you put all those factors together, and I think you have a guy that basically conducted a big, giant weather modification experiment with the St. Louis Arch.
Weather as a weapon? There are some who think the idea is not as preposterous as it seems. Especially when considering that even today, many world governments are pouring millions of dollars into research designed to manipulate weather.
I think weather modification has definitely been an ongoing endeavor of governments all over the world for decades. The St. Louis Arch appears to be an experiment in weather modification. The HAARP device appears to be an experiment in weather modification. Who knows what the Russians or the Chinese are doing? There's some sort of technology out there.
There's been lots of work in the field of weather control, using silver iodide inside of thunderstorms to decrease the size of hail. That goes on in many parts of the world to alleviate that problem. They're always firing rockets into the atmosphere in China to manipulate the weather. But is this a good idea?
You wonder if you could steer a tornado. what would it take? Even a nuclear weapon might just nudge it, if even that.
One challenge with that is your shock wave is going to be hard to focus, perhaps, and it might cause the damage you were hoping to avoid with the tornado. I would be looking at how much can I control or change local pressures in the atmosphere near and around the tornado.
These are forces at work that could wipe out major cities. And we're finding out every day new things that we've never seen before. So maybe the lesson learned here is we shouldn't meddle with forces that we don't really understand, because we may not like the result.
Weather. At its best, it can cleanse and renew, but at its most extreme, it can destroy everything in its path. No matter how much time and money we spend trying to control it and predict it, it remains as many things in our world among the unexplained.
American history of weather warfare. Prior to the Environmental Modification Convention, did y'all know that that exists? Now, this was before they were talking about global warming, something they want to convince you all is happening right now, so that you're not alarmed when the weather is all jacked up at any place in the earth out of season. This is why they'll tell you it's global warming, because people know that something is going on with the weather that isn't right. So now the built-in excuse is when it's snowing in June, or global warming, climate change, when really there's a history of weather warfare that none of the civilians of the earth knew about. American history of weather warfare. Prior to the Environmental Modification Convention, signed in Geneva in 1977, the United States used weather warfare in the Vietnam War. Who? The United States used weather warfare in the Vietnam War. Who knew that, folks? The cunning hunter also has the technology to use elements and the HAARP system to cause disruptions in any area they aim towards.
My message to the governors, anything they need, we will be there.
If presidents don't take action, then they get punished.
We've never seen anything like this.
Nope.
The waves are triple the size of a human being.
the storm hit, President Obama got to look like a leader. He was being a leader. Meanwhile, Governor Romney had to go back to being a private citizen.
I don't agree with Obama on everything, but I respect him and I trust him.
Like I said, the greatest hunter is a hunter that really doesn't have to engage. Y'all didn't know weather warfare, folks? There's a whole article. Type in American history of weather warfare yourself. And now you'll understand, like on the East Coast, in the midst of winter, it'll feel like a summer day one day and wintertime the next day. And you be like, man, it's so hot out here. And then it's freezing the next day to let you know there was a disruption within the season. Mm-hmm. And when you feel that, look at the news and you will see that there's an earthquake somewhere that have killed hundreds of people, like in Brazil.
Since mid-August, 160,000
or a storm that's hitting the walls like we see in the UK and other areas. All you have to look at the day before when you say, man, it's warm here. This is the dead of winter. It shouldn't feel like this in February. You know that weather modification is happening.
Tensions are running high.
Some place is getting tore down, and all of what we should be experiencing, the cold and all that, they utilize and move it as a weapon against, politically, against other nations. Wars. Rumors of wars.
This is the shuttle's fuel tank. It may only be 130 miles to space, but to cover that distance, the engines will use 500,000 gallons of fuel, and that works out at 2 feet to the gallon. Despite the cost, however, NASA does need to test these engines once in a while. So they built this place in the wetlands of Mississippi. The first thing they installed was a huge loudspeaker, through which they played white noise to simulate the sound of a rocket. They then sent a number of trucks in different directions out into the wilderness, and the drivers were ordered to stop when the noise levels became acceptable. This gave them an imaginary boundary line, and anyone living on the inside of it was offered a simple choice. Stay, and you'll never hear another television program as long as you live. Or take the NASA shilling and get out. No one stayed, and NASA ended up with exactly what it wanted. 125,000 acres of nothing. They even had to move 5 cemeteries, because the noise they were planning on making would wake the dead. Don't worry if you can't hear what I'm saying. I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And, as it turns out, the cleanest. Now, the most amazing thing is that that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain.
I told you. It's raining. That's unbelievable. Oh, NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
See? So we can't be troubled because Esau fight on every level. The greatest gift that we can have through Christ is understanding the signs and to be able to see the prophetic enemy and his devices. Warfare, psychological warfare, chemical warfare, pharmaceutical warfare. Right? Now, Elder Lawyer, since we're talking about wars and rumors of wars, what happens next? Matthew 24.
Matthew 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
But the end is not yet. So don't panic. Watch. That's why Christ said, watch as well as pray. Watch. Read.
Verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation.
That's one race against another race. And this is why Esau, through his media, has since perpetuity stoked racial division.
This was President Trump's
it's a
campaign
tool
announcement in June
to keep people from conversating.
Since then, President Trump's efforts
To keep people from understanding that regardless of race, all people have more in common than they think if only we can talk to one another. See, if only we could conversate with each other. At the end of the day, we all really want the same thing. We want peace. We all want peace, and we want what? A better world for our children. Okay? We all have this innate spirit to protect our family. We are really, when you really look at it, we all really want the same thing, but these racial divides that are being stoked interferes with conversation that Satan and the hunter don't want any of you to have. The only apparatus they want you to be able to trust is what? The government's initiatives and power. Don't trust anyone else but them. See? And this is what they do. They stoke racial tension. Okay? Finance what? They finance dissent in which citizens don't trust one another. And this is what they do politically. And I don't mean to digress here because this is a part of war too. If you decide to get something shot up in you, that's your business. I have no problem with that. That's your body, your choice. But I don't know what's going on with the psychosis of people who made that choice, who feel a need to try to push their decision on other people. That's psychotic. If you are already protected and you feel protected, why are you pushing it on someone else? Huh? Why? It's not because you care. Really, in your mind, you know you're dealing with a lot of little things within your body that you didn't experience before. And a lot of people become so selfish that they don't want to go down by themselves. They want to be able to call someone and ask, well, are you experiencing this too? Are you going through this too?
I don't mean to brag. I don't care, but I want you to know, double vaxxed, booster, flu shot, and I'm going to be honest, I have the shingle shot too. And I still get my period. What? Yes. Traveled, went to Mexico twice, did shows, meet and greets, never got COVID. Clearly, Jesus loves me the most. Seriously. So nice. So nice.
Are you going through this too?
Only 11 spoke with a local woman who says she lost feeling in much of her body just hours after getting Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine.
And it was the scariest thing in the world to go to sleep completely fine, walking, to wake up at 1:30 in the morning, not able to move at all.
She didn't want to show her face, but she tells Channel 11's Jillian Hartman about the moment that she realized that something was very wrong. And Jillian's live with us tonight. Jillian?
Yeah, she spoke with me exclusively from her hospital bed. Her family also told me doctors at Allegheny General Hospital ran every test you can imagine, but still don't know why a perfectly healthy 33-year-old mother is basically paralyzed from the chest down just hours after getting the Pfizer vaccine. Like you just said, Lisa, she didn't want to share her name, she didn't want to show her face, but she wants to show and share her story right now as more people become eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine.
They wanted someone else to be able to relate with the choice that they regret making. But now they're putting pressure on other people.
Sick and who is dying. It's a racial
Another way of doing what? Dividing people. What happens when you say one race of people is more susceptible to a disease or to something that's destructive in a society than another race of people? That's political segregation.
Numbers are concerning. The governor of that state.
That's nation against nation. I don't want the news telling people, well, we need to really help those who are primarily affected by something. No, don't even put that out there. We don't want your help. Because that's telling other people when they talk to their children, you can't go around these people. You can't go around them because they're more diseased than everyone else. That's nation against nation on a political, psychological level. Read.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom.
Kingdom against kingdom.
And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places.
Yeah. And see, this is what y'all don't know. With the weather warfare and all that, it was aimed towards countries that was going to produce what? Grain and all that.
On the brink of Armageddon.
Grain and foods and vegetables for the upcoming season.
Fundamentalist states who call for our destruction, nuclear powers over which we have no control. And even if we navigate these dangerous waters, we face other, even more inevitable threats. Flooding 90% of all habitable areas on Earth. Unchecked population growth will overtake food production in less than 50 years, leading to famine and war. This is not conjecture. This is fact. One way or another, our world is coming to an end. Now the question is, will we end with it?
With regard to food shortages, yes, we did talk about food shortages. And it's going to be real. The price of these sanctions is not just imposed upon Russia. It's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well. And because both Russia and Ukraine have been the breadbasket of Europe in terms of wheat, for example, just to give you one example. But we had a long discussion in the G7 with with both the United States, which has a significant, the third largest producer of wheat in the world, as well as Canada, which is also a major, major producer. And we both talked about how we could increase and disseminate more rapidly food shortages. In addition to that, how we could increase and disseminate more rapidly food shortages. In addition to that, we talked about urging all the European countries and everyone else to end trade restrictions on sending limitations on sending food abroad.
Iran got in these talks, and guess what? Iran is willing to compromise to some level, according to their side, because I heard their side too. Because why? Iran, really, all of their wheat crops have been dissipated to the degree where they have to compromise because there's no wheat being shipped in their country. And they don't have enough wheat within their country to sustain their people. weather warfare, the hunter, pressuring Iran to do what? To bow to the 10 horns and comply. Right now, politically, on the political landscape, Iran is the joker. They're the joker. But you know what? They cannot sustain being blocked out any longer. It'll be suicide for their whole country just to stay and not be able to trade and operate with the world like other countries. These were the sanctions that were put on all the way since Bush. Okay? Since Bush, going into the Obama administration, Trump, even till this time. Imagine all those years not being able to operate outside of the borders of your country politically, economically. So it's stressing the country to a point where what? There's nothing to lose for them now. All of their wheat crops has been destroyed. And there's not enough wheat to feed the Iranians. This is what they didn't tell you during the time when the only thing on the news was a cold. Was a cold. But folks, hey, where are we going now? Weather warfare? A lack of bread, food? Right? The Bible tells us this, folks. Right? And check it out now. I need y'all to really examine because we've been talking about this for years. For years. A shortage of supplies when it comes to food. At the same time, they're destroying the water. What happens when you can't eat, can't drink? These are the signs. But folks, Christ said, be not troubled. Of course, through all of this, Christ would have an answer for the remnant who believe, who understands. Now that I heard Christ's signs, I know what to avoid. Everything the hunter bring forth, I'm going to examine with skepticism because he have lied to me. He have lied to me since our relationship out of our mama's womb. He's lied to me. Okay? He came to our father and say, listen, what good is this birthright to me? For one meat, feed me with that same red pottage, and I'll give you my birthright. An agreement. And for one morsel of meat, he sold his birthright. And then he's going to sneak behind our back and try to get the blessing at the end of our father's life, Isaac's. To show you how this dude works. It's about the circumstance at the time. He just have to benefit at the time. But there's no treaties he keep in place, no agreements he keep in place. So how can I believe what our brother Esau or the hunter tells me?
The various
when it comes to what
shots that people are getting now,
protecting me.
You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Yeah.
So I have to look at anything he's shoveling, anything he's bringing forth with a level of skepticism and weigh everything they're bringing forth through Christ's signs and Christ's words. And Christ is saying out of the Bible, don't trust that brother. He's causing divides. He's causing all of this. Even though it's happening prophetically, you have to realize, geopolitically, there's events going on real time that leads to what Christ is talking about right here. Is Esau doing weather warfare, destroying crops and all this old other stuff?
This wasn't a malfunction.
Someone intentionally did this.
Are you going back up to space?
Think of it like I'm taking a vacation.
To a place 250 miles straight up. and negative 450 degrees, some holiday.
We built this system of satellites to stop natural disasters. Someone is using it to create them.
There's potential for catastrophic weather events on a global scale. A geostorm. It's worse than we thought.
Yeah, I think we've established that. Someone has turned the system into a weapon.
They're trying to change the map of the world.
Dear God.
It's them now looking to go into Ukraine and deal also and meet Russia into Ukraine that could lead to a serious war. Why? I'm going to get there in a moment. Ultimately, it's because they could no longer sustain
These books are for white folks. They're
the
full of
lie,
things your kind wouldn't
keeping the
understand.
children of Israel at bay. So now they're panicking, they're scrambling, knowing that the awakening is really keying them to understand that their time is running out. They can no longer convince us or confuse us anymore. The God of Israel has been talking with his people, and they know it. Their time is short. We were the sign to let them know to speed things up. Once we started saying out publicly that our people are the children of Israel, that was a sign for them. See? Finish reading, Elder Lloyd.
Yes, sir. Verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows.
All these are the beginning of sorrows. We'll go through tough times. Read.
Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake.
They shall deliver you up to be afflicted. Now this is key, and I've been checking this out. During this campaign for the last couple of years, a lot of federal laws were put in place. A lot of finances went towards making sure that if it's a federal institution, that federal institution by law must agree to administer, that's right, the stuff, the juice for federal institutions. And I was checking that out. Well, that means what? Jails. Even if it's a choice out here in the normal population, there is no choice if one is arrested and placed into one of these facilities. Because they said that you got to do it to keep the herd safe. So even though it's a choice out here, when you get in there, arrested or whatever the case is, your choices are taken away and you must get the stuff. See? So this is a way of what? Getting around things. If they can criminalize people and target people to get them in one of these institutions, automatically now they can do what they do and claim, well, it's because they caught the cold. They fell down sick.
As the coronavirus sweeps across California,
see,
tearing through the
they were able to institute something under an emergency that would have never been allowed. A place in which they can actually target people and deal with people without any of the family members understanding the sinister plots that's going to be against individuals that go through these institutions.
Do have cause to celebrate.
Here it is. Even the Bible says in Revelation, the second chapter, behold, they shall throw you into prison. Who shall throw you into prison? What's waiting in the prisons? Well, who will throw you into prisons? Elder Lawyer, get Revelations 2 and 9 and Revelations 3 and 9. Who will throw you into prisons?
Revelation chapter 2, verse number 9.
Read.
I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich.
I know thy works. Your tribulation. I know what our people are going through. This is what our God is telling us. But thou art rich. Now we poll as poll. What is the Most High talking about right now? At the end of this is an inheritance. Because with the name comes the world, comes the land, come all the promises of Abraham. See, we can't see it because we weren't taught it. This is why they destroyed our temple, because we discussed rulership, power, unity, and all that at that temple. See? But now it's saying what? Thou art rich. You don't see it. But it was prophesied that our children would rule one day. Not only just rule over our oppressors. And that's what the Gentiles are attempting to stave off. Guess what? The Gentiles cannot run from their fate. We couldn't run from ours. When the word of God goes out, it doesn't come back void. He told the children of Israel, if you disobey this law I'm giving to Moses, your people will go into captivity. Now, it's not permanent, but you will go. Could we escape it? No. There was righteous people throughout all generations, even after that law. The Most High chose prophets, teachers, and all that. But those good people within those societies, Israel societies, our forefathers, couldn't stave off the curse. Even though there was good people throughout all of it. So Gentiles, yeah, there's some good people even amongst the Gentiles and nations. But and I'm speaking of Esau and all these other nations. There are good people amongst all races of people. The Gentiles are not going to be able to stave off what's coming at them. It's our God for how they treated us. Yes, we went into captivity. We did a lot of things against our God, but they went beyond measure. They went beyond the line the Most High gave them, which the angels recorded. Read.
Verse 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer.
And he says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Read.
Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life.
Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. They setting things up, folks. They've always set it up through their lesser magic, through their what? Incremental programming. They got us adjusted in our minds to accept lethal injection in jail. But they use hardened criminals to adjust people into witnessing lethal injections in jail. And now all of a sudden, after the campaign and everything, it's your choice what you want to do. We're going to lower the mandates and all that.
The endemic phase of COVID has begun.
What we're announcing here today is about turning a page, moving from this crisis mentality.
California announcing a plan to ease restrictions as more Americans learn to live with the virus. It comes just days after the state ended its mask mandate. Every state but Hawaii has now stopped enforcing mask mandates or has plans to do so.
It's about time. Yep, I'm ready to get rid of them. Just deal with it like we deal with the flu.
With less restrictions in place, California will push for vaccines and testing, among other tools to help fight the virus.
We're not going to necessarily be wearing masks indoors. We're not necessarily going to have to show vaccine status.
However, masks could once again be required if cases go back up. California's plan could mark the next step for other states, with more decisions now left to local governments on how to move forward.
Certain parts of
At the same time, guess what? They're not lowering anything where it's instituted, where all of this stuff now is being given out to prisoners in jail right now.
Unless, of course, you have a friend or a loved one who is locked up. And those individuals,
folks,
they not only want
here it
to
is.
visit with their loved ones while behind bars.
Here it is. Here we go.
On our streets. So,
and see, like I said, they're predictive programming.
Strict prison guidelines.
They're predictive programming. What else have they programmed us to accept? What else have they programmed us to accept? Remember Katrina?
It's a classic military operation. Attack the enemy with overwhelming force.
We're in the eye wall.
Cut off his ability to communicate.
Take the enemy's eyes out. Take his ears out. Then fix him so he can't maneuver.
This whole place is going underwater.
But this is no sneak attack. The aggressor announces her intentions. Experts predict the date, the time, even the place where she will strike. And yet somehow, a natural disaster spirals into an unnatural human catastrophe.
We're devastated.
We haven't eaten in 3 days.
What turns Katrina into one of the deadliest hurricanes of modern times?
No water, no food.
We don't have a home.
We lost everything.
Why does it take so long to respond to the cries for help? Who makes the decisions and why?
People got to do something. They ain't got no more food. We got babies out here. We got handicapped people.
On the floor. She's dying right now. 2 people died already.
Where's the people? Where's the mail?
Please, somebody.
We need some help out here.
Get out of here. We want to get out of here.
I don't even know if my kids are alive, man.
The facts behind the storm shed new light as we go inside Hurricane Katrina. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, July 2004. A war game is underway at the state's Emergency Operations Center. The scenario, a deadly hurricane called Pam ravages New Orleans and the surrounding area. Floodwaters surge over the levees, engulfing the city. The death toll, 61,000. The injured and sick, 380,000. The homeless, 500,000. 500,000 buildings destroyed. 1 million people evacuate the hurricane zone. In the war game, Pam cripples local and state government. So without even waiting for an SOS, Washington takes charge of the relief effort. After a week of these doomsday scenarios, the disaster officials have a preliminary plan.
So the locals knew what their responsibilities were. The state knew what its responsibilities were. The federal government knew what its responsibilities were.
Wednesday, August 24th, 2005, 11 a.m., the Central Bahamas. Heavy rain and high winds rattle the skies and kick up mountainous waves in the Atlantic Ocean. Satellite photography reveals a spinning formation of thunderstorms, with the signature counterclockwise rotation of a hurricane in the making. Sustained wind speed tops 38 miles an hour. It is officially a tropical storm, for now. On the alphabetized list of names for storms in the Atlantic Ocean in 2005, the next one up is Katrina.
FEMA trailers brought shelter problems to Katrina victims. Remember these? Remember these when Kanye said George Bush hates black people.
I hate the way they portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. See a white family, it says they're looking for food. And you know it's been 5 days because most of the people are black. And even for me to complain about, I would be a hypocrite because I've tried to turn away from the TV because it's too hard to watch. I've even been shopping before even giving a donation. So now I'm calling my business manager right now to see what is the biggest amount I can give, and just to imagine if I was down there, and those are my people down there. So anybody out there that wants to do anything that we can help with the setup, the way America is set up to help the poor, the black people, the less well off as slow as possible. I mean, Red Cross is doing everything they can. We already realize a lot of the people that could help are at war right now, fighting another way, and they've given them permission to go down and shoot us. George Bush doesn't care about black people.
That was Kanye West. And this is President Bush, who later wrote in his memoir that this moment was an all-time low of his presidency. He spoke about it in a 2010 interview with NBC's Matt Lauer.
I didn't appreciate it then, and I don't appreciate it now. It's one thing to say, I don't appreciate the way he's handled his business. It's another thing to say this man's a racist. I resent it. It's not true. And it was one of the most disgusting moments of my presidency.
This from the book. I faced a lot of criticism as president. I didn't like hearing people claim that I lied about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction or cut taxes to benefit the rich. But the suggestion that I was racist because of the response to Katrina represented an all-time low.
Yeah, still feel that way as you read those words.
FEMA trailers brought shelter problems to Katrina victims. Oh yeah, predictive programming, because when you know that the weather warfare is going to destroy the crops, when you know that the dollar is being stressed due to this administration and others pumping all the finances in the system, that stresses the dollar that will make the food we do buy go up. When you know the stress that's going on in the Ukraine that's going to lead to high gas prices, alternative living must be established for those who cannot afford housing. So let's go to New York City real quick. The urban disaster housing prototype. Hence the reason why they put a black mayor over New York, so that no one can say this is a racist agenda that they're about to roll out. In overview, New York City built and tested post-disaster housing prototype to residents who may lose their homes as a result of a disaster. As a result of a disaster. Man, what's coming? Prototypes. Prototypes of homes. FEMA pods. And this is why they've been programming people and adjusting people to desire tiny homes. Oh man, that's nice. That's cute. See, that's part of their programming. Why? I need you to see how, that's right, through predictive programming, our people are going to look at this like, you know what I mean? These things aren't that bad. Now, what did they do? Through lesser magic, they put they plastered the idea of FEMA homes at the Super Bowl. At the Super Bowl. Dr. Dre and others through predictive programming is letting the whole world know the hood he came out of. Because don't forget, they use him to chart one path for our people. The gangster life that destroyed our people. Only for him to come at the end of it and say, this is what comes next. Our people dancing and celebrating in FEMA pods for the Super Bowl. Predictive programming. Like I told you folks, war has always been fought on every level by the hunter. By the hunter. Wars and rumors of wars. Well, folks, wars are psychological also. They're psychological also. A need for public housing will happen. A need for public housing shall happen, folks. Under the so-called Dovic 91 spelled backwards initiative, they put all of our phones on disaster alert. And at any time, that same alert can be used for any disasters, whether it be war, weather, you name it, folks. These are the wars and the rumors of wars Christ was talking about that will suppress and destroy our people. They're going to look to do what? Downsize us, eradicate us without any people actually realizing they're doing so. So where we're living in these big cities, without the food resource to sustain us in these cities, they have already began to produce alternative living. And they're going to make it seem nice, cool at first, inexpensive at first. And folks, they're not just doing it here in the U.S. Wars and rumors of wars. Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Let's go now to the book of Baruch. The book of Baruch. And what I'll do, so that people can follow us here, brothers and sisters can follow us here. Chapter and verse. Let them know what book of Baruch you're in, Elder Lawyer.
We're in 2 Baruch 27 and 1.
2 Baruch 27 and 1. At the top, you can read it from the top. 27 and 1. Let's read it, Elder Lawyer.
And he answered me and said unto me, into 12 parts is that time divided, and each one of them is reserved for that which is appointed for it.
In 12 parts is that what?
That time divided.
Is that time divided. In 12 parts is that time divided. Emergency alert. Right? In 12 parts is that time divided. Come on, Elder Lawyer.
And each one of them is reserved for that which is appointed for it.
Come on.
In the first part, there should be the beginning of commotions.
There shall be the beginning of commotions. We're going to hear about commotions going on. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Disagreements in people's houses over ridiculous stuff. When the closer we're coming to Christ's return, the closer we come to that time, it should be us as families growing closer to understand the climate socially and otherwise as he would want us to see it. Not according to the hunter, not according to what the government is saying. And you got family members right now in commotion because one family member chose to take a medical procedure that wasn't around in 2019. And is mad because another family member isn't going to take it. I thought y'all loved one another. And you're going to let somebody come in with a campaign that's going to divide your house? Commotions. That's why I tell people. I told people. And I'm going to tell you, man, I was sitting next to this guy. He was a white guy and all that. He was a little rugged looking guy. And he thought that he could talk to me about some Arab people, some Afghanis or something. And he's talking to me, telling me, yeah, these Afghanis, some of them coming around. I don't even know if they got the shot.
The plane, one of the
I'm like, well, okay.
Diplomats and Afghan allies.
I'm like, so, and I asked him, and this is what shocked him.
Some here think of this
if he got the shot, what does that have to do with you?
Welcome to Aman Omid village. To Afghans, that means
I just asked him straight out. If he got the shot, how does that affect you? You may not even you might not even run into that Afghani.
Air Force Base in New Mexico.
So why does that concern you?
700 Afghan refugees.
And he looked at me. He says, "Did you get the shot?" I said, "What I do between me and my doctor is medical privacy between me and my doctor. That's the way it used to be."
Yeah, this official. Made the beat. Hey, come, man. You know we can't do anything. We can't make one step, one move unless it be the Most High will. As we pray about it first, and He confirm it. Hey. If it be His will, I'ma move what the heights say move. I'ma do what your shites say do. I'ma lose whatever I lose. If it be His will, I'ma endure it to the end. I'ma ensure I get the friends, forsaking whatever I can. If it be His will, I ain't gon' fold. I will never die. Eternal life, sacrifice my own lustful ways to see that paradise. His will is better than mine. I ain't trying to get rich at that trying. Gotta restudy it in the fly.
Before people lost their minds, and I said it just like that. But in my mind, I'm glad he told me that he got it. Mm-hmm. Because you know what I did? Deuces. Okay? I was out. But I made sure I gave him a moment to think about his nonsense. Him being allowed to be triggered against other people because of his choice. People he don't even know. I know in his mind, he's like, man, I never spoke to a nigger like that. Yeah, we can see. We bring common sense to the table. Logical conversation. With what? Like I say in the academy. With a biblical perspective on everything. Okay? Come on, let's go.
Verse 3, and in the second part there shall be slayings of the great ones.
In the second part there shall be slayings of the great ones. Read.
And in the third part the fall of many by death.
In the third part the fall of many by death, as you can see here. Read.
And in the fourth part the sending of the sword.
In the fourth part the sending of the sword. The cunning hunter will be talking about what? Sending men off for war. For war. So these are the same signs Christ spoke of in Matthew 24, broken down in parts. All of this has been going down since 70 AD. Because this is how Rome was seeking to bring forth a new world order. In order to have a new world order, you must bring the whole earth and every government under Rome's power and sanction the countries who disagree with Rome's objectives until They acquiesce like they're trying to do with Iran. This doesn't have anything to do with America forcing sanctions on Iran. All of this is being ran by Rome. All of it. What's going on in Israel? What's going on in America? America is the proxy that will be sacrificed at the end of this. Okay? Because at the end of the day, the world powers are going to blame America for the state of the world, which was Rome's plan from the beginning. To use a country as a fall guy so that when it's ready to bring forth the New World Order, everyone will be looking at Babylon while they bear rule 1 hour with the beast, which is the last 7. The last 7 of the Jubilee is when Rome will have full power and Europe will rule for a time under the EU.
Following the successful but really dark launch of the digital ID system in China by the CCP, Ursula von der Leyen has announced that she's doing the exact same thing inside the European Union.
Und aus diesem Grund wird die Kommission demnächst eine sichere europäische digitale Identität vorschlagen.
Here we go again. Ursula von der Leyen, the woman who said she believes in identity of each individual in Europe and countries, their sovereignty should be respected and personal freedom, and how she's learned from the past in Germany that authoritarianism is a bad idea, so she decided not to be a socialist, and that's why her party decided to become more centrist and, still believe in free market and free speech. Well, technically, they don't really believe in that. Mainland Europe is basically run by a bunch of control freaks, whether they call themselves right-wing or left-wing. It's all authoritarianism. Essentially, I'm going to show you this video where she's now launched this plan for a complete digital structure where the identity of individuals in Europe will be controlled by Brussels, and her justification is that I'm doing it to protect you. This is in the name of safety. I'm going to show you this because this is actually inspired by the document that was published by the World Health Organization and the United Nations about a couple of years ago, a year ago, when it came to the health passports. They gave it to all the governments and they said, well, it's up to you what you want to do with it. Luckily, in this country, apart from this weird short period we had in England where Boris said, well, let's do for big venues, a lot of countries decided not to completely use it as a future digital structure. I know we're still talking about it inside this government and parliament, but the European Union went ultra. Watch this.
On pourra s'implanter, ce sera quand ça? Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans nos topos. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
Jedes Mal, wenn eine Website uns auffordert, eine neue digitale Identität zu erstellen oder uns bequem über eine große Plattform anzumelden, haben wir in Wirklichkeit keine Ahnung, was eigentlich mit unseren Daten passiert.
See, it's all because of safety, public safety. I'm here to protect you from random websites who, you know what they're going to do with your data? They're going to take advantage of your data, yes. So what she's going to do instead, she's going to give the power to her bureaucrats, random faceless bureaucrats who are going to be watching and reading and listening to everything you do to protect you. Seriously.
Eine, der wir vertrauen und die Bürgerinnen und Bürger überall in Europa nutzen können, um alles zu tun, vom Steuerzahlen bis zum Fahrradmieten. Eine Technologie, bei der wir selbst kontrollieren können, welche Daten ausgetauscht und wie sie verwendet werden.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's the second part of it, by the way. It's not just safety, it's also efficiency. We are helping you because that means whether you're in France or Spain or Italy, which is basically all similar at this point, they're all authoritarian, just different levels, then it will help you. You could pay tax, you could give us your money from wherever you want. The problem here is that I am very pro-technology. I am very much pro, ideally, organically, getting to a future Star Trek world. Just don't force it. Do not create authoritarian systems where you bring down the flags and borders and we're all the same. No, that's nonsensical. And something like this that helps with efficiency. For example, we have apps that you could order food and they'll come to your door. These are make things efficient. There's a lot of things that technology is helping you. I'm right here, sitting here with a small camera right now, uploading a video, and you're watching this news update without the need of having a big production team and a big studio. These are the good advantages of technology, but it's not mandated by government. When it's mandated by the state, first, that's not really the main objective. They're lying to you. Secondly, it's not organic. It's by force. Thirdly, it's just not going to work. It's evil. And you have to share this video. Have to. I'm mandating you to share this video. Because it's actually complete nonsensical. No one's talking about this in the mainstream media right now because they say, well, this is Brexit Britain. We've left the EU, so we don't need to. I can assure you, we have to talk about this because we are right next door. And knowing the caliber of our politicians in this country, I just don't trust them. Peer pressure is a new thing in this globalist world. So whatever happens in America, New Zealand, and in the European Union, these idiots talk to each other. And then they hang out, when in Davos and in all these other places, COP26, or the next one. And then they come up with ideas and say, President Xi, your credit score system is working. Let me try this. So when people go to Tesco, we can see if they are behaving. Genuinely, I'm not even kidding. So we'll see how it goes. Talk about this with everyone. See what people are thinking around the country. People need to be afraid, but at the same time, not too afraid because we still have a little bit of freedom left. So enjoy the freedom till it lasts.
Construction
And then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
Do you have an answer in the book?
At present, the best guess we have is keep them happy with drugs and computer games. Most important point to focus on is what I mentioned as hacking human beings. Are we close or at the point when Huawei or Facebook or the government or whoever can systematically hack millions of people, meaning knowing them better than they know themselves? That they know more about me than I know about myself, about my medical condition, about my mental weaknesses, about my life history. Once you reach that point, the implication is that they can predict and manipulate my decisions better than me. Humans are now hackable animals. The whole idea that humans have, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. All this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news.
This is fake news.
Come on.
Yes, sir. Verse number 6.
6.
And in the 5th part, famine and the withholding of rain.
Oh, hold up. Let's get it. And in the 5th part, what?
Famine and the withholding of rain.
Famine and the withholding of what?
Rain.
And the withholding of rain. Now let's get it again. Let's get it once more. And what, Elder Lawyer?
In the 5th part, famine and the withholding of rain.
And the withholding of rain. American History of Weather Warfare. This is what they're covering up when they talk about climate change or the earth.
The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us just how devastating a global cross-border threat can be. Climate change and biodiversity loss are no different. In fact, they pose an even greater existential threat, to the extent that we have to put ourselves on what might be called a warlike footing. Having myself had the opportunity of consulting many of you over these past 18 months, I know you all carry a heavy burden on your shoulders, and you do not need me to tell you that the eyes and hopes of the world are upon you. To act with all dispatch and decisively, because time has quite literally run out. The recent IPCC report gave us a clear diagnosis of the scale of the problem. We know what we must do. With a growing global population creating ever-increasing demand on the planet's finite resources, we have to reduce emissions urgently and take action to tackle the carbon already in the atmosphere, including from coal-fired power stations. Putting a value on carbon, thus making carbon capture solutions more economical, is therefore absolutely critical. Similarly, after billions of years of evolution, nature is our best teacher. In this regard, restoring natural capital, accelerating nature-based solutions, and leveraging the circular bioeconomy will be vital to our efforts. As we tackle this crisis, our efforts cannot be a series of independent initiatives running in parallel. The scale and scope of the threat we face call for a global systems-level solution based on radically transforming our current fossil fuel-based economy to one that is genuinely renewable and sustainable. So, ladies and gentlemen, my plea today is for countries to come together to create the environment that enables every sector of industry to take the action required. We know this will take trillions, not billions of dollars. We also know that countries, many of whom are burdened by growing levels of debt, simply cannot afford to go green. Here we need a vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector. With trillions at its disposal, far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders, it offers the only real prospect of achieving fundamental economic transition. So, how do we do it? Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, many of your countries, I know, are already feeling the devastating impact of climate change through ever-increasing droughts, mudslides, floods, hurricanes, cyclones and wildfires, as we've just seen on that terrifying film. Any leader who has had to confront such life-threatening challenges knows that the cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of prevention. So I can only urge you, as the world's decision makers, to find practical ways of overcoming differences so we can all get down to work together to rescue this precious planet and save the threatened future of our young people. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, or global warming, to blame the people for the disasters that's going on. They'll turn it on, the disasters aimed towards certain areas happens, and then they'll say it's because you're using up stuff is why now the earth is warming and disasters are happening uncontrollable. to hide the fact that there was technology of weather warfare against people since the 60s. The withholding of rain, right? Come on.
Verse 7, and in the 6th part, earthquake and terrors.
Because when you turn that stuff on, earthquakes happen. If you look in the sky, brothers and sisters, and see clouds in a line formation, it looks like lines in between them, those are frequencies that divided the clouds. I'm not talking about the chemtrails. I'm talking about when you look at the weather patterns of a cloud and you can see lines in between them. That's frequency. And usually when that happens, it's being turned on, weather modification is being used, and usually it stresses the earth that leads eventually to an earthquake. Come on.
And in the 8th part, a multitude of specters and the attacks of the Shadim.
Read that last piece again for me, Elder Lloyd.
Verse 9. And in the 8th part, a multitude of specters and the attacks of the Shadim.
And the attacks of the Shadim. And the attacks of the Shadim. We're reading right here for those who want, because I have an actual PDF of the actual book, Studia Prographa. There's more than one book of Baruch. There's what, Elder Lawyer? Say it again.
It says, and in the 8th part, a multitude of specters and attacks of the Shadim.
And the attacks of the Shadim. It's talking about demon possession. Demon possession, folks, which actually is happening within our society chemically through, that's right, folks, a lot of that depression stuff people are on medically, it's opening people up to demons. Okay, when people out there saying, well, you gotta pop this Xanax or pop that because I'm depressed or whatever, look at the side effects of it. Look at the side effects. The side effects is suicidal thoughts. Now, if you're looking to harm yourself, no one around you is safe. These are the attacks chemically of the specters and the Shadim. Instead of people dealing with their issues, their deeply rooted issues, and repenting and being born again and face their lives, how grim it might seem, you're better off accepting who you are and dealing with the mistakes you've made and become better for it than to try to pop a pill to conceal what's on the inside. People look at their life and say, I'm disappointed. I didn't know my life was going to turn out this way. Folks, that's because we brought into Disney, the American dream. None of that stuff is for real. And you shouldn't be depressed because you can't keep up with the Joneses. There is no chemical fix for depression. The only fix for depression is repenting. You start popping that stuff, and guess what? And people try to use drugs to distract them or try to make them cold and not to feel what? Their reality. But once you wake up the next morning and sober, your life is worse than it was the day before. Why? That was one day you could have done something about it. You could have done something about it. So you're in a bigger hole than you were yesterday, depressed. And thought that if you pop pills or smoke weed or did something to feel good, it would go away. A lot of y'all don't know about the Voynich manuscript, folks. A manuscript that talks about, that was translated out of the Latin into French into English, in which the world powers who worship Satan would use drugs to control the population.
There is a book stored in the Yale University collection of rare manuscripts under the code MSS408 that's written in an undecipherable language, containing pictures of strange animals and plants that don't resemble anything documented by modern science. That book is called the Voynich Manuscript, and this is its story. We know that the Voynich manuscript was handwritten sometime in the first half of the 15th century, that it's about 240 pages long, and that it probably took someone several years to make. What we do not know, however, is who made it, why, and most importantly, what it is even about. The language it's written in is incomprehensible and radically different from any other language that we know. The first known owner was Rudolf II, the Holy Roman Emperor and the King of Bohemia, who allegedly bought the book from an unknown seller. Since then, the book changed hands numerous times, and over the centuries, it has been carried from one European country to another, until it was acquired by Wilfrid Voynich in early 20th century, a dealer specialized in rare antique manuscripts, who brought the strange book to the United States, and after whom the manuscript is named. Following his death, the book was donated to the Yale University, where it remains until today. Years later, the original author of the book is still a mystery, and so is its content. Even the best cryptologists of several generations failed, and to date, there still hasn't been a single proven case of successful deciphering.
Now, every other commercial is a drug commercial right now. Why do you think so? They know God is connecting with his people, and they're trying to keep you disconnected. Living in an alternate reality instead of fessing up to the world that the Most High said we would experience. And needed to be what? Saved through. Read.
Verse number 10. And in the ninth part, the fall of fire.
And in the ninth part, the fall of fire. What's that? Bombs being dropped on the earth. Read.
And in the 10th part, rapine and much oppression.
Rapine and much oppression. And this is what happens, folks. Why? When the food supply begin to dry up. When the food costs go up to a point where you cannot afford the groceries we used to get. And now FEMA and others is going to come with an alternative. Ration socialized food packages. Just like Soylent Green.
Here in the 21st century, with climate change manifesting on a daily basis, world population exceeding 7 billion, devastating global pandemics as a constant threat, toxins in the air, water and food supplies are merely given and politicians insist it's all a myth. This is Movie Shortens. It seems like the right time to follow us to a dystopian classic, Soylent Green. Be aware. There are spoilers. In the year 2022, New York City population has risen to over 40 million people. In one of the apartments in the city lives Detective Thorne. When he turns on his TV, an ad plays for Soylent Green, which is a miracle food made from plankton, but it's usually in short supply. It's nighttime and Saul is going into the book exchange in the public library carrying the two large Soylent Corporation journals. He shows the journals to some elderly colleagues to study. Here, he learns some shocking facts about Soylent. Before they can bring their evidence of Soylent's wrongdoings, they have to look for more evidence. Once they do, they will bring it to the Council of Nations. Saul is distressed and now they doubt the existence of God. Saul says he thinks he should go home. Knowing the bitter truth of Soylent Green, Saul admits himself to an assisted suicide at a euthanasia clinic. Thorne arrives back home and finds a farewell note from Saul. He immediately leaves to stop him. However, he is too late and Saul's in the middle of his last moments. Thorne attempts to stop it, but upon seeing what Saul is seeing, he stops himself and watches it too. He cries over the images of old Earth and the beauty they once had. Saul tells Thorne that what he and his colleagues have found in the journals. He tells Thorne that they need proof of what is happening before they can approach the Council of Nations. Now, Thorne understands the enormity of deception and cover-up by the Soylent Corporation. Saul is content to pass away watching 20 minutes of beauty whilst listening to classical music. He leaves the front of the building and sneaks downstairs to the basement where all of the deceased bodies are being loaded into the waste disposal trucks. As one of the trucks is leaving, he runs alongside and jumps onto the truck, climbing onto the top and hiding. Noticing blood on the floor, the guard follows it, hoping to get to Thorne. Hatcher gets to the church and finds Thorne, who tells Hatcher to get to the book exchange and tell them that he has proof. He tells Hatcher that he's seen it at the processing plant. Soylent Green is made from people. The ocean is dying, and so is the plankton. As they carry Thorne out on the stretcher, he makes Hatcher promise to tell the exchange Soylent Green is made out of people.
That's right, folks. This is where we are going. This is where we are going. This is what their plans are for those who can't afford to live. See? Let me blow the other picture up here. FEMA containers, folks, that they're going to set up in different areas and have prepped our people, like they did in Katrina, to believe this is something good after a disaster. And they've prepped all of us to understand this was for us, not for other people, by having Dr. Dre and all of them introduce the FEMA containers at the Super Bowl. At the Super Bowl, folks. See? Predictive programming. Now, you know this is for the inner city because that's where Dr. Dre came from. See? That's where Mary J came from. See? Predictive programming. And of course, they're going to have a lot of drugs in the midst of this so that the people can cope and not deal with the reality, which is what? The end, according to Christ. Let's finish reading, Elder Lawyer.
Verse number 12.
Yep.
And in the 11th part, wickedness and unchastity.
And at the what?
And in the 11th part, wickedness and unchastity.
And at the 11th part, read it again.
Wickedness and unchastity.
Wickedness and unchastity. Wickedness is breaking the laws of God or violating your conscience, doing what you know is wrong.
Shake je body, ik geef je opzien. Onze doet het met de gang, bitch, ik heb die medicine. Het doet me niks, dan moet ik jaren zitten. Fuck twee met bitches die aan me zitten. Jij doet alsof je bent een app en ik leeg. Heel die clip en maak dit te film. Maar Rembo, je bent niet safe. Eén keer splash je just loop leeg. Fok me niet op, want ik kom met cat. 2 keer, je bent weg.
And unchastity. It'll make it where you'll have an app on your phone. And at any time of day, you can get a match. You can get a match on Tinder or what's the other thing, Bumble or whatever those things are. Or go to Instagram and jump into someone's DMs. Of course, you can do it because why? No one else know what you're doing outside of you and that person, right? Right? Wickedness and unchastity. See, this is why Satan had to do this. He had to give you a device in which you can do it without will. You can have the conscience and fortitude to withstand all of that. And don't put the apps on your phone. But he knew that there will be a majority of people who would just go out there and do what as thou will if we lived in a society that couldn't be able to shame you for it. See? No one knows because you're hooking up privately and all that. But guess what? When you do it, a shelter, you walk out of the shelter of the Most High, bare to be utilized by the specters, the shittims, which are demons, and Satan himself. You've walked out of your shelter. And now he can use you. See? He can use you now. And these are the people that aren't getting prepared for what's about to happen. And guess what? And the same people, when the hell break loose, don't try to blame God for any of this. Oh God, why is this so? When the opportunity presented itself to do what's right, but yet when you were free to make a choice, your back was turned to him. Okay? So it's only in disasters and destruction where people start to cry out for God. But then when the freedom is here to make a choice to serve him, tender. Sliding in people's DMs. And guess what, folks? It doesn't matter your status. The lowest man in this earth, or the lowest person, or the poorest person in this earth is going to experience the same terror and destruction that's coming as the richest guy. A guy just around the corner is going to be on the same level as Kanye, Drake, and all this other stuff. Everyone is going to see the signs of the times. And guess what? It's coming for everyone.
Next.
The New World Order is coming.
What about the individuals who refuse to have this number implantation?
We expect some minor resistance, especially from highly motivated religious groups. But eventually, hunger will cause even the most zealous to conform to our program. Gentlemen, I believe that within a year, 2 at the most, our one world government will be a reality. If we continue on our present course, it is my opinion that we could present the devil himself as a world leader, and the people would accept him.
The clip I just showed you was from the 1981 film entitled Early Warning. Initially, this film didn't get much attention. However, it is now 40 years later, and people are starting to notice something a little bit strange. Here, see for yourself.
I would like to thank each and every one of you for your hard work and dedication to our cause. In reviewing this year's progress, let me say that we have been highly effective in conditioning the people's minds to accept our solution to the world's problems. The energy crisis here in the United States was exceptionally successful worldwide.
Bad news for anyone who uses gasoline. Just take a look at pump prices.
I'm scared. I don't want to pay like $10 a gallon.
The national average has jumped 4 cents in just one day to $3.65 a gallon, up 12 cents in a week, 25 cents in a month. California pays the most, averaging $4.86 a gallon.
Over the course of the weekend, it would not be surprising that motorists could step outside, see the gas station, and prices could go up 20, 30, even 40 cents a gallon in some of these areas.
Here's why. Russia is the world's second largest oil exporter. But today, its exports are under a de facto ban as shippers refuse Russian oil, countries turn away Russian tankers, and banks refuse to extend credit. Today, oil topped $112 a barrel for the first time since 2011. While U.S. oil companies, under pressure to preserve profits, are still pumping 10% less than before the pandemic. Exxon and Chevron say they plan to increase production, but it won't be quick. Airline ticket prices also likely to get more expensive, with jet fuel surging 35 cents a gallon in just 2 days. Experts say higher prices could last months or even years, and this year alone, American families could pay an extra $600 to $700 extra just in gasoline. Lester?
And we expect similar success with our upcoming food shortage.
With regard to food shortage, yes, we did talk about food shortages. And it's going to be real. The price of these sanctions is not just imposed upon Russia. It's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well. And because both Russia and Ukraine have been the breadbasket of Europe in terms of wheat, for example, just to give you one example. But we had a long discussion in the G7 with both the United States, which has a significant, the third largest producer of wheat in the world, as well as Canada, which is also a major producer. And we both talked about how we could increase and disseminate more rapidly food shortages.
Our labor leaders have made great progress by causing confusion and work stoppages in all areas of the world. Financially, the dollar is being devalued even faster than we could have hoped. Politically, the public has lost total confidence in any form of government.
But they don't want anybody living out in the boonies. Anybody that's got a couple of acres of land and
and his own water supply and can grow his own food and that kind of thing, or have some sheep or some chickens, these people are a threat to the collectivist society, because they aren't going to go to the politicians and say, please feed me, please clothe me, please give me shelter. They tend to be independent. That's the secret behind Agenda 21. They want people out of the country. They want corporations out there growing all the food and that kind of thing, but they don't want anybody living out there, because that way they cannot be controlled. In order to control mankind, we have to get them all into the big cities. We have to rack them up and stack them up, get them dependent on the state for their food.
The threat of universal war is a daily possibility. As you know, we ourselves do not need to hold any visible office of leadership. As a matter of fact, it's better that we do not. We control the finances, news media, food, transportation, energy.
When you think of secret societies, you think of groups of rich old men, like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, sitting around a ridiculously long table, all trying to top each other with their best diabolical laugh. It makes for a fun cartoon, but in reality, such societies and secretive meetings do exist, and one is going on right now behind closed doors in England. The Bilderberg Group is a meeting of the most influential people in Europe and North America. Wall Street investors, business moguls, politicians, royalty, they're all coming together and keeping the media and everyone else out. What are they discussing? What are they plotting? Doesn't the public have a right to know? Well, apparently no. Though, what they chat about could very well end up impacting your 401k or who knows what else.
Security was tight today at the Grove Hotel in this leafy area north of London. 140 members of the global elite arrived here for a top-secret, hush-hush, off-the-record conference in the English countryside. How's this for a guest list? The head of the International Monetary Fund, former Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner, the heads of Amazon.com, Google, and BP Oil, former General and CIA Director David Petraeus, and what's a top-secret cabal of puppet masters without Henry Kissinger? All of them came here today for the Bilderberg Conference. That's Bilderberg, not Build-A-Bear. Participants are tight-lipped about discussions, other than to say topics will range from the economy to jobs to U.S. foreign policy, what the organizers call megatrends and the major issues facing the world. Reporters and outsiders are not allowed in, and everything is off the record. Organizers say that so participants can take time to listen, reflect, and gather insights. Protesters from around the globe have descended upon the venue, objecting to the secret nature of the meetings, which have been going on behind closed doors among European and North American elites since 1954. Protester Daniel Kirby explains.
It's just a gathering of people who are concerned that our elected politicians who promise transparency are meeting in secret with the heads of top banks, pharmaceutical companies, weapons companies, you name it, European royalty are in there, sort of thing. It's just incredible that they can say one thing and do the other.
Now, if you're thinking this is just another cabal of the people who secretly run the world, so does noted author, provocateur, and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones from InfoWars.
Magna Carta has been restricted for the scum globalists that are in there.
We control everything. It is important that you, as world leaders, keep our program before your countrymen. With our World Bank and computer program operational, we now have the capacity to control the financial affairs of every human being on Earth by giving each person his own computer number. Anytime his number is used, we would know his financial situation at once. He could not buy or sell anything without his computer number. It will simplify their lifestyles tremendously. The end result will be a one-world monetary and government system that we alone will control.
I think the most important thing to know about living in the 21st century is that humans are now hackable animals. To hack a human being means to understand that human better than he or she understand themselves, which was never possible in history before on a massive scale.
Yes.
What about the people who forget their number or their cards are lost or stolen?
We've made provisions for that. By using this laser imprinter, we can painlessly and permanently affix the person's number to the back of his hand or his forehead if he so desires.
This is a video for the UK Freedom Warriors and Dan, just to show you I confiscated my parents' tests. They glow. UV light. Look at this, normal cotton wool bud. Oh, luciferase. Yeah. This is just bad. Do not let your kids take these tests unless you put a UV light under them. If they don't glow, they're fine to use, but these all glow. This is where they come from. Made in China.
The numbers would be easily read by this new ultraviolet scanning equipment. For the purposes of demonstration, I've had such a number imprinted on myself. Once this number is imprinted, it cannot be lost nor can it be changed. Now, are there any questions?
What about the individuals who refuse to have this number implantation?
We expect some minor resistance, especially from highly motivated religious groups. But eventually, hunger will cause even the most zealous to conform to our program. Gentlemen, I believe that within a year, 2 at the most, our one world government will be a reality. If we continue on our present course, it is my opinion that we could present the devil himself as a world leader, and the people would accept him.
Okay? Don't be surprised. See, that's another thing. Our people think because we've gained a certain status, folks, that we're the special ones who's going to be coddled and protected from what's coming, and we won't be, in the mud with our people at the end of it because they like us. We're different. Well, the hunter, when he have no more use for you, is going to throw you back. It's going to throw you back. You're nothing but a tool. Okay? Let's finish reading. We're going to end this out soon.
Yes, sir. Verse 13. And in the 12th part, confusion from the mingling together of all these things aforesaid.
And in the 12th part, what?
Confusion of the mingling together of all those things aforesaid.
In the 12th part, the mingling together of all of these things, which will totally confuse people. And this is why people are confused, because it's not consistent. It's not coming in a chronology or in a way of conformity to have people understand how close we are.
Israel has been treated differently.
See? And the Most High is doing that on purpose. But for those who can see, they understand the times. Like I told you all a couple of years ago when they was bringing forth the Dovik 91 spelled backward campaign, just stand pat. They're going to utilize this until a certain number of people are controlled under it, and then they're going to move to the next phase. How did I know that? How did I know that? Listen clearly to how I knew that. Read.
It says, and in the 12th part, confusion from the mingling together of all those things aforesaid. For these parts of them that are reserved shall be mingled together with another and minister one to another.
Come on.
For some shall leave out of For some shall leave out some of their own and receive in its stead from others.
Some shall leave out of his own and receive again to its others. So you'll have a campaign that's working now, but when the people start to realize it's not what the government is saying it is, they're going to pull back and put something else out there. That's how I know. Because if people understood that they were under attack by the hunter, all nations would join together against him. So when the people begin to wake up, When the messaging
There's
changed,
been
when
over a
they
20-to-1
realized that
return.
what
If you
they
had
said
put that money
before
into an
isn't
S&P
what
500
they're
and
saying
invested in
now,
dividends, you'd come up with something
people
like
want to start
$17
asking
billion,
questions.
but you think it's $200 billion. Here, yeah.
You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
These vaccines are highly, highly effective.
Vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick.
They're really, really good against variants.
Everyone who takes the vaccine is not just protecting themselves, but reducing their transmission to other people and allowing society to get back to normal.
Get your first shot, and when you're due for your second, get your second shot.
Our key goal is to stop the transmission, to get the immunity levels up so that you get almost no infection going on whatsoever.
When people are vaccinated, they can feel safe that they are not going to get infected.
If you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in an ICU unit, and you're not going to die. If you are fully vaccinated, you no longer need to wear a mask.
Anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing. But what they can't do anymore is prevent transmission.
We didn't have vaccines that block transmission. We got vaccines that help you with your health, but they only slightly reduce the transmissions. We need a new way of doing the vaccine.
The level of virus in the nasopharynx of a person who's vaccinated and infected is the same level as the level of virus in the nasopharynx of an unvaccinated person.
Reports from our international colleagues, including Israel, suggest increased risk of severe disease amongst those vaccinated early.
And if you look at Israel, which has always been a month to a month and a half ahead of us, they are seeing a waning of immunity, not only against infection, but against hospitalizations and to some extent death. A booster might actually be an essential part of the primary regimen that people should have.
Plan is for every adult to get a booster shot.
It's clearly one of the best investments I've ever been involved in.
So it says one part would move out its place only to be replaced by another part. So when Christ said, ye that endure unto the end, the same shall be saved, it's talking about through these parts. To sit still and not be triggered to react while they're putting all of these different things out there to bait us, to kill us. You got to endure through these parts without being subjected to them. That's what enduring to the end is. It's going to come. But if you can see what it is, like, no, I'm cool. Because I know eventually what? They're going to move from this campaign, and one day they're going to act as if this never even happened. And then they're going to be talking about something else. When we were going through it, this was the all to end all the last couple of years. It was the end of the world. Oh my God. That's the hazmat tents put up, hospitals, nurses, and then that's, okay, we're finished with that. Because what? They on to the next part now. And I told people, and some people, many, have fallen. Why? Lack of faith. And now you can't control what's in you. That's it. Okay. Finish reading.
It says here, and some complete their own and that of others, so that they may not understand who are upon the earth in those days, that this is the consummation of the time.
And it says the people will not understand that this is the consummation of the times. What's the consummation of the times? The 1,750 years that was calculated from Christ's birth until his coming. No, we're not in 2022. We're not in 2022. The Romans lied to you. Daniel 7:25 says that they should think to change times and laws. But you cannot change prophetic time according to God. No matter how many calendars you tinker with. you tinker with here. And if y'all don't believe me, why don't y'all type in the Gregorian calendar and look down on the Gregorian calendar where it talks about the calendars in every part of the world. It's 2022 in America or in the Western world, but it's different dates every place, including China. What is the real time? What is the real time? Folks, we're close. We have a little time, but we're close. And even in the academy, when I break down the secrets of the times, we show you the date that's closer to the date of the Enoch calendar in it. We show it. We're closer than you can believe, but we have some years, but we are close. We are close, and that's another conversation I'm going to talk about. And that's why Christ says wars and rumors of wars, but the end is not yet. It doesn't mean it's the end of civilization because of war. Okay? Come on, other lawyer.
28:1.
Yep.
Nevertheless, whosoever understands will be wise, or shall then be wise, for the measure and reckoning of that time are 2 parts of 7 weeks. And I answered and said, it is good for a man to come and behold, but it is better that he should not come lest he fall. But I will say
it's
this.
2 parts of 7 weeks. 7 times 7 is 49, and the last year is 50 is a jubilee. So what Christ was breaking down was the time in hundreds of years from the time of his birth up until the coming. And then it breaks down to the minute level, the last 7 years before his coming. That time was written in the heavens since the beginning. The last 7 years of the 50. Okay? We're not there yet, but we're close. Now, some people might ask, well, Elder Ricard, if y'all got the dates based on the time, then what does it mean when Christ says, no man know the day or the hour? Great question. No man knows the day or the hour. Why? Matthew 24 and 22 lets us know. Let's read that real quick. You're there, right?
St. Matthew chapter 24 and 22.
Read it.
And except those days should be shortened.
And except those what?
And except those days should be shortened.
Except those days, speaking of the last Jubilee, except those days be shortened,
there should no flesh be saved.
No, none of us would be left, because Satan even know how much time he has. It was written in the beginning. This is why no man know the day or the hour, because he's going to shorten that time. Satan knows exactly how much time before the judgment, because it was given to him in the beginning. So there's a race to build a tower, to space stations and all that, to get off of this earth before that time. Even if the whole world is destroyed, even if there's no people left. See? So because
but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened.
For the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. This is why no man know the time or the day. Because the time that was allotted, Christ is going to cut short. We can give you the jubilees of times since the beginning. Give you the calendar. Hey, go to gatheringchrist.org and and actually order that calendar. It puts you back on time according to the Sabbaths and holy days of God. Even if we gave you that time stamp, it doesn't matter. He must come back before the time that was given the Roman Empire to rule under Satan, or none of us would be left. They have set up a systematic way of putting us down without anyone recognizing it, through a prison system. okay, through a eugenics system where they need to get something in our veins that would affect the rest of our lives. And it's not just what's going on right now. It started since we were children, needing certain type of agreements to get into a school to learn. Depopulation at its finest. And it's not just happening here. It's happening in Africa.
No jab, no job. That's the policy in Zimbabwe and more countries around the world. And it's not just public servants who have to get inoculated, employees at private companies too.
So you got it's a get pass. If you don't have your get pass, back.
That means no work, no salary. Some unions call the policy intrusive. Others say mandates are a must.
It's happening in Brazil. It's happening wherever the children of Israel are. They are targeting us and putting us down. So Christ said, listen, I must cut their time short, or there'll be no people for me. None of the Israelites would be left if I didn't. Let's go back to Baruch.
Baruch 28, verse number 4. But I will say
hold up, and thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that, Elder Dell. Thank you for doing that. Let me see here. Thank you for putting the link up for the calendar, because all of our brothers and sisters need it. And I'm going to tell y'all, brothers and sisters, you know, I hate to keep saying it, and I keep stressing it. I keep stressing it, the importance of the Hebrew and Bible Academy. I keep telling you. Yes, it does help us do things on this side, like the camera you see before you today, and the other things we're doing, moving to make sure that we can have food and other things to work out, knowing the time to come. Yes, it does help us. But it keeps you in the know, brothers and sisters. Even if you've been in prior academies, you are missing what we're bringing forth this one. Okay? I'm going to tell you, that's why I'm stressing it, because y'all don't know what y'all be missing on Sundays for that first day of the week learning. And now on top of that, you got PDFs where you can have yourself to learn even in the absence of the academy. This is a lot of hard work and study that have been put together to be at your fingertips. We have new lessons, finding the Ark of the Covenant. We actually know where in the book, put it this way, there's areas in Egypt where Joseph left gold in the wilderness for us that the Most High will give us access to. All of those things, archaeological proof that the Bible is real and that it's our map to the wilderness. Okay? Now, it's a lot of what we drop here, but one thing I like about the academy is you have the literature there. Literature that you can study in our absence, that's going to grow your understanding, that will, when all this stuff cut off, it's going to be those lessons in the spirit that was in those lessons, including this Sabbath, that will guide us all together. And this is why I keep stressing, get into that academy, brothers and sisters. I'm going to tell you. We're all up in these schools. We go to Esau schools for theologian school. This is how you can support the work and get the information you've never received in this earth, ever. Okay? Finish reading that last part.
It says, but I will say this also.
Yes.
Will he who is incorruptible despise those things which are corruptible?
So here's a question. Will he that is incorruptible despise those things that are corruptible? Will you look at the things that are destroying our people and say, you know what? I'm going to take a hard stand against it. Even if our people turn on me, even if they turn on me, I'm going to take a hard stand. I'm not going to compromise when it comes to corruption. I'm going to stay incorruptible. And even some of the things I put out there yesterday, I was telling Lawyer, I was expecting what I put out there yesterday to be received by people to say, you know what? I didn't know that we were being attacked chemically, and that's why we're sick. losing hearing all these. I expected that to be received with the same excitement I found it out with. I thought people were going to look at what I put out yesterday and say, you know what? Let me protect my daughters from the chemicals and all these things that are destroying them. And even though some people did, sometimes when we teach and bring things out, I'm like, sometimes I have to question, are they really listening to what we're bringing forth? And I'm talking about logically, not with how they feel. Are people really listening? So when I went into the chemicals about the depot shots and all these other things, no one is talking about that. That, man, I'm glad I know so that I can tell my daughter not to make the mistakes I've made. And I'm talking about men and women protecting our daughters. I didn't know getting certain shots and all that was going to destroy the follicles in my head. I expected a windfall of people to say, thank you, Elder Ricard Shiar, that you're pointing out the chemicals that we thought wouldn't give us these types of side effects. We didn't know that we were sacrificing our long-term quality of life and our hearing all this, doing all of this at a young age. And it's like, I'm like, well, I can only put it out there. And this is why the Bible says, what? Those that are incorruptible, will you despise the things that are corruptible? Will you admit these are the things that are wrong and take a hard line on it? And help our sons and daughters to not suffer the curses we have suffered, regardless of how we feel personally. And it seemed like there's certain things you cannot talk about unless what? There's a trigger or some type of, that's where the demon is. That's where the demon have to be destroyed. Anything that stop us from having a conversation that can save our people and help a generation of children. And it's only met with what? Tension or misdirection or people talking about something that we're not even discussing. And it's a shame. Let's read it. Last piece.
Yes, sir. But if it says here, so that he might look only to those things which are not corruptible.
Come on.
But if, O Lord, those things shall be assuredly, or those things shall assuredly come to pass, which you have foretold me, so do you show this also unto me, if indeed I have found grace in your sight.
He says, show it to me if I've found grace in your sight. What verse you at, Elder Lawyer? Chapter and verse.
Chapter 28, verse 7.
Chapter 28, verse 7. Come on.
Is it in one place or in one of the parts of the earth that those things are to come to pass? Or will the whole earth experience them?
Or will the whole earth experience them? Or will the whole earth experience them? Come on. What verse?
29, verse 1.
29. Let me put it up here so they all can see it. 29, verse 1. Read it.
And he answered and said unto me, whatever will then befall will befall the whole earth. Therefore all who live will experience them.
Everyone in the earth will experience this.
The world as it was at the end of the 20th century. It exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix. You've been living in the dream world.
Is that insane or what?
Only different in your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
I'm not saying you're not mentally ill. For all I know, you're crazy as a loon. But that's not why you're here. That's not why you're here. It's not why you're here. You're here because of the system.
What I'm about to tell you is top secret. A conspiracy bigger than all of us.
The poor and the underclass are growing. Human rights are non-existent.
There's a powerful group of people out there that are secretly running the world.
Transport, food, communication, housing, luxury, energy.
The top 1% of the top 1%, the guys that play God without permission.
A few of us making decisions on a global basis.
They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices.
Nations are bankrupt, gone. None of that tribal warfare anymore. Even the corporate wars are a thing of the past.
Synthetic emotions in the form of pills. Psychological warfare in the form of advertising. Mind-altering chemicals in the form of food. Brainwashing seminars in the form of media. Isolated bubbles in the form of social networks. Real? You want to talk about reality? We haven't lived in anything remotely close to it since the turn of the century.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Therefore, television is reality, and reality is less than television.
This is the world now. Plugged in, logged on, all the time. You can't live without it.
It's got its way into everything.
And these people are inviting their own extinction in through the front door and they don't even know it.
They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We have been lulled into a trance.
It's like people who had a choice a long time ago between having all them nice things or freedom. Of course, they chose comfort. I mean, them privileges just buy us off.
Impulses are being redirected.
The battle for the mind of North America will be fought in the video arena, the Videodrome. There's the television. It's all right there. All right there. Look, listen, Neil, pray. Commercials. Not productive anymore. At least to make things anymore. It's all automated. What are we for then? We're consumers.
We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
Okay, buy a lot of stuff. You're a good citizen. But if you don't buy a lot of stuff, if you don't, what are you then, I ask you? What? Mentally ill.
They are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival.
The television screen is the retina of the mind's eye. Therefore, the television screen is part of the physical structure of the brain. Therefore, whatever appears on the television screen emerges as raw experience for those who watch it.
Genesis is an operating system. Genesis does everything. My phone will link to my tablet, will link to my computer, will link to my car. Everything in my life uploaded and online 24/7, totally connected.
Flash of light you saw in the sky was not a UFO. Swamp gas from a weather balloon was trapped in a thermal pocket and refracted the light from Venus.
So you just flash that thing, it erases our memory, and you just make up a new one?
A standard issue neuralizer.
And that weak-ass story is the best you can come up with.
There have always been ghosts in the machine. These free radicals engender questions of free will, creativity, and even the nature of what we might call the soul.
In this tale, I am a fake god by occupation and a magician by inclination. I am the puppet master.
Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness.
Is any of it real?
Time is an illusion. Lunchtime doubly so.
Mind over matter, Dr. Angelo. This is also new. It's not new. We haven't been tapping into new areas of the brain. We've just been awakening the most ancient. This technology is simply a route to powers that conjurers and alchemists used centuries ago. Human race lost that knowledge, and now I'm reclaiming it through virtual reality.
Corporate society takes care of everything.
Comfort is freedom.
That's not it. That's never been it.
What about the books?
Books, oh no, they're all changed, all transcribed, all information's here. Ask anything, he'll find it for you. Won't you, Zero?
I'd like some information about corporate decisions, how they're made and who makes them.
Answer him. Negative.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It is set deep in a possible future, so none of these events have yet occurred. But they may. Be warned, be warned, be warned, be warned.
Why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented,
Everyone in the earth shall experience this. Read on.
Verse 2, for at that time I will protect only those who are found in those selfsame days in this land.
In this land. So before all of this go down, the Most High is going to guide people into the same areas we once were. Before receiving or while receiving the 10 Commandments. Some is going to be able to walk into those areas. And there's going to be a number of people moved into those areas. Okay? I'm going to discuss this live out here where everyone can see it here. But I'm going into portals in the academy. This academy, all into the portals, the gates between heaven and earth. I'll be talking about that in the academy to show you all the scriptures in the Old Testament and in the New Testament where our people entered gates or doors to get from one part of the earth to the next part of the earth with the assistance of angels. In this academy right here. Okay? I know I touched on it shortly in other academies, but we're doing a full lesson. A full breakdown where when you look in Ezekiel and different places where it talks about gates, where the angels in Genesis, where they had a sword moving in every direction to block the way from the tree of life, which is at the Gulf of Aden, all the way to the book of Revelation where the tree of life is actually presented back, where the Most High have the angels rest. And don't forget, all the angels are going to come with Christ in his coming. They're going to lose their light. That means at the same time, the angels that are keeping the gates are going to have to stop keeping the gates, and we'll see different parts of the earth that are being cloaked by the Most High. That's when we're going to see all of these things that were always present but not accessible. I'm going to be going into that. The portals between heaven and earth. Folks, there's doorways everywhere. This is how the spiritual realm gets through and are not subjected to our time when you walk through one gate into another. I'm going to be talking about in this academy also. But we're going to finish it out here. Finish reading, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Verse number 3. And it shall come to pass when all is accomplished that was to come to pass in those parts, that the Messiah shall begin to be revealed.
And at that time the Messiah shall begin to be revealed. See, when all this happens, no people in the earth are going to try to be able to claim that the Bible prophecies weren't true. At that time, we're going to be living the signs. We're not going to be living in a society in which we can actually deny the prophecies Christ said, because everybody in the earth real time will be living under these signs. Read.
4. And Behemoth shall be revealed from his place.
And Behemoth shall be revealed from his place. Okay, that's right. That's the beast that was made from the beginning, who ruled 1,000 hills. So when they cut down trees and do all this stuff, eventually when the war happens and all that goes down, Behemoth is going to present himself on the earth, tearing down cities, all of that. Read.
And Leviathan shall ascend from the sea.
And Leviathan shall ascend from the sea. Now Japheth, who are the Chinese, always knew this. Between dimensions. And they depicted a lot of these prophecies within their animation when they showed Godzilla fighting King Kong and all those things and tearing down streets. Folks, this is not just in the Bible or in the Apocrypha or in the Hebrew records. It's also in the Asian legends that these two creatures are going to come on the scene wrecking shop. Read on.
And Leviathan shall ascend from the sea, those two great monsters which I created on the 5th day of creation, and shall have kept until that time.
Exactly. These are the two creatures the Most High. He had one to rule the waters and another to rule the hills, or the what? The forests. The areas uninhabited. And guess what? They both go through gates. That's right. They can go through gates and end up on different sides of waters. The same thing. One can be in Africa for a while and they'll find themselves in the Himalayas in another area, or they'll find themselves, or Behemoth can find himself near the Grand Canyon in the woods there. They will be revealed at the very end. So yeah, there weren't any type of prehistoric animals. Okay, 100 million years ago, 25 million years ago, we totally destroyed that lie. They try to teach in science through science. We totally destroyed that. These were hybrids.
These creatures were here before
You see dinosaurs and all that, those were hybrids made during the time right before Noah, when they began to cross-splice animals that consumed mankind and the Most High sent forth the flood. That didn't happen. That happened thousands of years ago. That didn't happen 100 million years ago. So the only animals out there that was created like giants or prehistoric animals were these two, Leviathan and Behemoth, and eventually they're going to present themselves on earth. Read.
Verse number 4. And Behemoth shall be revealed from his place, and Leviathan shall ascend from the sea, those two great monsters which I created on the 5th day of creation.
Those two great monsters, read.
Which I created on the 5th day of creation, and shall have kept until that time, and then they shall be for food for all that are left.
And they shall be for food for all that are left. They shall what?
Be food for all that are left.
They shall be food for the Gentile nations. We're not eating those things. But the other nations are going to eat these to sustain. Read.
Verse 5. The earth shall also yield its fruit 10,000-fold, and on each vine there shall be 1,000 branches, and each branch shall produce 1,000 clusters, and each cluster shall produce 1,000 grapes.
Come on.
And each grape shall produce a core of wine.
Look at that. The Most High will begin to nourish his people. Think about this, folks. One vine of grapes, two men are going to have to carry on sticks. That's how fertile our land will become for her children. Now, the other nations are fighting over their wars and rumors of wars so that they can stake position in these areas to stave off these prophecies. The same way the Amorites and the other Nephilim were in the land of Canaan and planted themselves there to try to stave off our people getting the promised land. This is why they had a proclamation in 1942. This is why you got wars over there in the Middle East, because they're trying to get there to stake claim to stave us off from actually getting the land. But the Most High is going to send Leviathan, Behemoth, animals that there's no technology in this earth can go against. And he's going to be wrecking shop all on these different cities, tearing down their walls, their technology, all of that. Folks, our people, the children of Israel, we're going to get the land without fighting anyone. We're just looking at the wars and the rumors of wars. They're destroying themselves. And on top of that, the Most High is going to send the animals against them. And the walls will fall like they did in Jericho. See? Come on, finish reading.
Yes, sir. Verse 6. And those who have hungered shall rejoice. Moreover, also they shall behold marvels every day. For winds shall go forth from before me to bring every morning the fragrance of aromatic fruits.
Aromatic fruits every morning. It's going to be the scent of aromatic fruits for us every morning. Read.
And at the close of the day, clouds distilling the dew of health.
The same way it was before the curse of Adam and Eve. The clouds are going to come down and heal us. The dew of health. It's going to nourish us. There'll be no need for rain. Read.
And it shall come to pass at that selfsame time that the treasury of manna shall again descend from on high.
Whoa! The Most High is going to have it rain angels' food, manna, like he did when we were in the wilderness before. Folks, we're going to be fine. And that's why he says, yeah, you're going to have troubles, but you must endure through the troubles. At the end of this, I'll comfort you. I'll nourish you. Don't fall to it. We prophesied all these things must come to pass. This is how the Most High is weighing in the balance on earth. Those who would choose him or the God of this world. That's what these signs are. They're tests. They're tests for us. See? Come on.
It says here, and it shall come to pass at that selfsame time that the treasury of manna shall again descend from on high, and they will eat of it in those years, because these are they who have come to the consummation of time.
And we're going to eat it because why? We're the ones who have come to what?
The consummation of time.
The consummation of time. The consummation of time. Let's get it here. Because we are the ones that came to the consummation of time. And then it talks about the resurrection. Let's just read the 30th chapter of Resurrection and we'll end it there.
All right. Chapter 30 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass after these things, when the time of the advent of the Messiah is fulfilled, and he shall return in glory.
He shall return in glory. It's speaking of our Christ. So it's giving us a chronological order of what's going to go down before his return. Now, when we're eating the grapes and all that, that breaks down where we're in the wilderness with a fire round about us, protecting us from the Gentile nations. They're going to see us there, but guess what? They will not be able to touch us. Let's finish reading. Come on.
Then all who have fallen asleep, verse 2, then all who have fallen asleep in hope of him shall rise again.
All of our loved ones in Christ shall rise at the time, the coming of Christ. This is spoken of in Thessalonica to prove that these books confirms the gospel. It confirms the epistles and what they knew concerning Christ's resurrection. This is Old Testament teaching. 500 years before Christ was born, these records were in the earth of the Hebrews. Read.
And it shall come to pass at that time that the treasuries will be opened, in which is preserved the number of the souls of the righteous.
And that's when, hey, I pray that I see mama, I see daddy, I see my grandparents. The Most High will open up the bosom of Abraham. And imagine seeing your father and mother in their full glory. Your great-grandparents who stood for Christ in their full glory, not aged. In the strength of their years. And you can recognize, you can see them and know, man, that's my mother. That's mama. That's daddy. This is where we meet our families in Christ before the takedown. Now, I'm going to be talking about the takedown, folks. The judgment of the Gentiles, week 11 of the Academy. The takedown of the Gentiles, how China falls, how America falls, how Europe falls, the whole thing. In chronological order, how each of them fall with Rome standing last to fight against Christ. The Battle of Armageddon, week 11. Finish reading.
And a multitude of souls shall be seen together in one emblissage of one thought. It says, and the first shall rejoice, and the last shall not be grieved. For they know that the time is come of which it is said,
read,
that it is the consummation of the times.
The consummation of the times. The time from what? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Up until what? Christ's return. It's all been fulfilled, what was written in the heavens from the beginning. And guess what? The children of Israel at this point are free. They're free. We're free. Read on.
Verse 4, but the souls of the wicked, when they behold all these things, shall then waste away the more, for they shall know that their torment has come and their perdition has arrived.
And their perdition has arrived. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth.
All lives end in suffering and tragedy.
With that, brothers and sisters, that concludes our lesson for today. Until tomorrow, the promised seed, in which we're going to go into it like never before in the academy. We thank you for all you do in supporting the work. And I hope you see the importance of some of these books and all that. Okay, what I did, I paralleled the rumors of wars and all that and show you what Christ said, but also showed you how Esau worked on a psychological level to war against us, to have us accept our servitude. That's why I showed the Super Bowl, the containers, and all what they're planning. But the Most High has another plan. He have another plan for us. And we are not to be troubled. And this is why Christ said, ye that endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Choose this day which God you follow. We're following the God of Israel who sent his son, whom the earth ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. His name is Yeshua, King of kings, Lords of lords. And we're the gathering of Christ Church. Humble servants sent to teach. With that, shalom. May the Most High be with you. Stay prayed up. Of course, sin not. We will soon see Zion. Shalom. See you tomorrow in the Academy. HistoryTimes.org.
Hey, yo, Air Warren. We finally made it out of Babylon State Prison, you know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, let's go back to the hood. We about to hit the streets up again, but this time, that righteous activity, you know what I mean? Something that they need. Here we go. Hey, my arms feel so good with these chains off. You feel so free now. I broke them chains. Everything for a higher. Yeshua, it ain't a thing. Gosh. Hey, let's talk about it. Christ's blood in my artery. And they calling me, yeah, I'm following. That's probably why they targeting. Spread the gospel, no gossiping. Got all of me, no partially. Like Donkey say, yeah, I believe. They don't know what's hard for me. They don't know what's poverty. Before the sun goes down on me. No Greek lies, no Odyssey. Can't go to hell, no nominee. I work for Christ, yeah, every night. Can't stop with that, no retiree. They reprobated, they hang with Satan, tell them shoe flies. Let the Holy Spirit rain her love down on me. While my enemies keep on looking down on me. When I pray for them in peace, love, and harmony. Okay, I pray to God every day. Defeat the odds and give them all the praise. What goes around, that's karma, ooh. Pray for truth on the avenue. Pray for me and I got you too. Christ coming, I thought you knew. I break the chains, no bondage. Scroll bitter in my stomach. Heaven coming, who want it? But I know I'm. Hey, like I said, man, it's all the free thing from here on out. I say, let my people go. Man, it feels so good. Let them know again. I say it feels so good. But you don't feel it up. Man, breaking that system, that Babylonian system. I ain't wasting no more time. I'm on my grind. Hey, but Air Warren. Hey, talk to him a little bit. Let him know. Listen to it.
I'm finally free. The shackle and chains that fell out my my feet. Scales I fell off my eyes. I once was blind, but now I can see. Who the sun set free, shall be free indeed. The devil not riding my back. Now I can breathe, now I can sleep. Read the Most High. He set me free from all of my demons. I'm no longer scheming, I'm no longer dealing, I'm no longer winning and sinning, I'm winning, I'm no longer subject to sin. I don't wanna do it again. Christ is my righteousness, I'm a filthy rag within. You wanna be free? Believe in the Son and kiss the ring. Keep the commandments, confess and repent and be baptized for remission of sin. You will be seated in heavenly places. Walk in the light and remember your end. And with man is renewed daily. You will be saved and do to the end. And praise the Shire every day. And I praise the higher every day. And I thank the reward for sealing me unto the day of redemption. Never leaving or forsaking me and protecting me from my enemy. St. John 8:31. Then said Yeshua to those Jews which believes on him, if ye continue in my word, then ye are my disciples indeed. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make ye free. Verse 34. Yeshua answered them, verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abideth not in the house forever, but the Son abideth forever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. Amen.
Hey, we free. I'm free at last. Ain't no more looking back. Give me all my stuff. It's been a long time. Matter of fact, you know what I mean? Just leave all of that. I'm moving forward. We free. With my people going back. Yes, sir. This is done. It's over. Working for the kingdom. Into it, you know? Hey, let's get ready to get out of here, though. Alright, relax. Hey, man, I'm only looking forward from here on out, you know what I mean? Hey, back. Free all my people. Let's walk together. Let's do this together. I'm free at last. Finally free, man. This is how it feels, man. It's over. It broke them chains. Broke the bondage. Yeah. Get everything in the abundance. Get it. Free at last.
Shining sun, for the herb of the field, for the falling rain. I just want to thank you, Lord, for everything you've done. My words will never be enough to show the gratitude I have.
is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines. All thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. Why criest thou for thine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable, for the multitude of thine iniquity. Because thy sins were increased, I have done these things unto thee. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. For I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds, saith the Lord, because they call thee an outcast, saying, This is Zion, whom no man seeketh after.